You're on the Six Strings Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Well, hello everyone and welcome in. This is our last program of the night, but we're so glad to have our good friend Eric. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and he's originally from Rhode Island, but he's down there in Tennessee, so we're glad to have him with us. But anyways, his program is called Awakening After the Watchtower, and we look so forward to his program every week. He's gaining a lot of momentum. More and more people are checking in and listening to Eric's program. So let's bring Eric on right now. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Rick. How you doing?
Well, doing good. Sorry we're a little late tonight, but boy, more and more people are calling in.
You had a great show tonight, Rick.
Yeah, it was good. We did really good. So we're looking forward to your program as well. So I'm going to step out. Give me about 5 minutes. I'll get your video clip up, and I'll get the phone line set so there'll be no issues. So thank you, Eric. So hang in with us.
Alrighty. Well, hello everyone. Let's see here. Let me fix something real quick. I can't see the comments. Why is that? Why can't I? That's very bizarre. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna fix one more thing, guys, because I like to have the comments on my TV here. All right, I'll just fix it later. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Is Rick show on here? Yep, here it is. My show, I should say. Okay, everyone. Sorry about that. But yeah, how is everybody doing? Let's say hello to everyone. Let's see who's on here. Oh, we got some people talking already. We got Don Rosen. Hello, Merry Christmas to you and John Marciano. Hi, Becky. Who else we got here? Beverly Howard, how you doing? Shirley, what you say? What's up? What's up to Dallas? Merry Christmas to Beverly. Who else we got? John Marciano and Keith Silver. How you doing? Hey, Dallas. Well, welcome everybody. It's I think everybody's in a good mood. You know, our communities are all in good moods. It's that time of the year. But yeah, I got a few things we were going to talk about tonight, and well, the video that Rick's going to play. Let me start with the topic of the show. We're going to talk about is the Watchtower a sinking ship, and I've brought this up before, but we're going to talk about it again because there's a lot of things going on in this organization right now that is really suspicious, and there's a lot of red flags. If you remember, I don't know, it might have been, I'm not sure how long ago, maybe a month or two. It could have been longer than that. But Rick played a video of what was it? It was jw.org video where you wash your hands. It was telling you to keep clean, how to wash your hands and keep clean and all that crap. And it was just like, Rick made some good points. And gee, do we really need a video for that? But apparently they do. Well, it seems like they keep making these bizarre videos like this. Excuse me. And I think that they're addressing the problems that they've created, mind you. And let's see, the new the video we're going to play tonight. It says, "Should I drop out of school?" And I just find that kind of ridiculous. Should I drop out of school? Is crazy. I mean, doesn't anybody with a brain here pretty much know that like the answer to that is no, you shouldn't drop out of school, go all the way forward. The fact that they even have to, bring that up, it's kind of telling, and I'm wondering why that is. But I think I do know why. I think that they have a problem. I think that the end of this system of things didn't come, and that Watchtower has more holes in their ship than they can keep up with at this point. Let's see here. When we get into the video, it's going to give like a lot of points. I think it talks about bullying, why some people would want to drop out. But, if it wasn't for being a Jehovah's Witness, I think a lot of us can agree to this, that we wouldn't have gotten bullied. I mean, anyone can get bullied. It happens in school all the time. I mean, you can't avoid it, no matter what religion, faith, race, whatever you are. But certainly didn't help. It didn't help not saluting the flag. It didn't help telling, I got in trouble when I was in school because of my personality type. As some of you know me, I'm a straight shooter. And I had no problem telling kids when I was like 6 or 7 years old. It would be Christmas time. Santa's fake. It's not real. Your parents are buying the gifts and putting them under the tree. I got sent to the principal's office. My mother. I don't remember how old I was. Maybe I was 10. I don't know, but somewhere around there. Somewhere where it was young enough where kids still kind of believed it. But it's obnoxious, and the the witnesses they say they don't push their beliefs down our throats, but it certainly is to the contrary. Here's that video that Rick's going to play, and this is from jw.org. They put another video out too, and we'll talk about that. I'm not sure if I'm going to have him play that one, probably not, but it's only about, I think it's 4 minutes long, so just bear with me, guys. I know it's agonizing, but we'll make fun of it and critique it. Oh, you ready to go, Rick? If not, I can keep going. I hope it's playing. It's not playing on my end. I don't know if it is on your guys, but yeah. Like have to really. Let's see who said that. Yeah, no doubt, Stefan. Dan and Angela did a great job, and I always love your guys' fireplace. I got one, but it's an electric one, and it's it's more of just a. Uh, it's not the same thing. It don't blow off much heat, and it's not real. But yeah, you got a great voice, Angela, and thank you for the Christmas spirit. I guess we're having problems with the video, but anyways, one thing that I'm seeing is that with this school video is that just like the washing the hands or keeping clean, the hygiene and all that they're doing, I think that they've created such a problem that they have to address these. Like I said, the end hasn't come, and the people are getting worse and worse off. Oops, let me just fix that. Okay, but so there's the school video, and then on top of that, we've got a new Watchtower that's coming out for this month, or it just came out. I'm not sure if it's this month or what it is. I didn't catch the month on it or the date, but it's telling children to get baptized at a very young age. To sum it up, it's telling to trust the governing body no matter what they say. And here we go.
School can be stressful, whether you're in a classroom or able to be schooled at home. Even the best students have days where they'd rather be anywhere else. And just because you're there doesn't mean you're always plugged into what's happening. For example, do you deal with anxiety or depression? Are you among the many young people who get bored at school or find it difficult to focus in the classroom? Does your family rely on you for financial support? Do you worry about bullies or violence at school? Problems like these can discourage you. You could start to skip classes and your grades may suffer. The more you fall behind, the easier it is to listen to that little voice inside that says, just drop out. But wait! The Bible says that a smart person thinks about each step he or she takes. So first, think about how school can help you. The real benefit of a basic education is more than just the subjects you study. Education is training for your brain. By studying a variety of subjects, you learn how to learn and practical skills such as reading and writing, things you'll need to do in the real world. The Bible encourages us to safeguard practical wisdom and thinking ability. School is a great place to sharpen your problem-solving skills and learn more about yourself and the people around you. Of course, the challenges you face don't just disappear, but staying in school trains you to deal with them. You learn self-discipline and how to prioritize what's important. You could learn a skill and find work after you graduate. If you drop out, your options for future employment may be limited. A good education also protects you. When you're well informed, it's harder for others to take advantage of you. So if you're struggling at school, don't give up. Reach out to someone, your parents, a mature friend, or teacher for help. In areas where the law permits it, some parents may choose to homeschool their children. Wherever you attend class, make it a goal to stick with it and stay focused. Eat nutritious foods, exercise, and get enough sleep. When your body is healthy, your brain works better. The Bible says that there is benefit in hard work. It's worth the effort to finish school. School can help you discover and nurture abilities you never knew you had, train you to think and solve problems, and prepare you to handle the responsibilities that life brings your way.
Well, thank you, Rick. Yeah, I've got Becky Wise's comment here because that's one of the comments I was going to make on this. So I guess two great minds think alike. What do you think, Beck? Are you kidding me? Pointing out school like that, no matter what he says. Now all I hear is that creepy whisper, "Just drop out." Gave me the creeps. I can still hear it. Amen to that. The thing is, though, before that, they were talking about like having anxiety or wanting to drop out from anxiety and stress and wanting to drop out because you're not doing good in your grades or whatever. But if there's any ex-Jehovah's Witnesses here that grew up in the so-called truth and had to do homework and study for the Watchtower, gee, I wonder why, and especially if you have a little ADD or ADHD, I wonder why we sucked in school. I mean, not for nothing. We have to go to if you're an '80s or '90s baby like I am, or um, older generations. We had to make 3 meetings a week, and that midweek meeting killed us. You know, if you had the book study at your house like I did for a couple years in high school or junior high school, where was the time to do anything? You had to set up for the book study, put the chairs up, put them away, help out the family. Sometimes you had goodie night, which was always kind of cool, actually. But anyways, it's just like, what do they expect? And what I'm seeing from this too is their anti-education has not been good for their society. I think they're still going to be strict in college, but who knows? They might, that might be something that they end up changing. It's just kind of my own little belief, but I'm not sure. Hold on 1 second, thank you. But I'm not completely sure why they're doing that. But what I'm coming up with is that they're losing people because there's a talk that Mark Sanderson just put out. I'm not going to play that, but I'll just give some points of what he says in it. And he says that they need qualified, trained brothers and sisters. They're needed everywhere in God's organization today. We need them to preach the good news. We need them at world headquarters. We need them at branch offices all around the world. We need them on construction projects as well in our local congregations, end quote. So these guys, this is why I'm saying this is a sinking ship, because these guys, they're focusing on the future, and I don't think they ever did before. They were spoiled, and they had willing labor. They had Jehovah's Witnesses that were just like myself that did the RBC or LDC work. And our friend CIA man, he used to do all the lawn care and everything for them for years, for decades, I think. A lot of these brothers and sisters just working for nothing, cleaning the halls, only to lose them. But I think that they're changing so much because they've failed. The witnesses, the organization has failed mankind, and never mind Christ. They can't keep going anymore, and they know it. They have to somehow get people back in, and I just some people in this comment section. I wish I could find them in the moment, but I saw some people saying that the video was creepy. Besides Becky, someone else said it too, and it is disturbing, because the disturbing thing about it is they're using manipulation through the TV, which is something our government has done since the, I don't know, the 50s or 60s, whenever TV came out. Um, not just the government, but advertisements. I mean, I'm not trying to just be a conspiracy theorist here, but why do I know the jingle? I have a cash settlement, or I need a structured settlement, and I have a structured settlement, and I need cash now. Call 877 Jetworth. Give give me cash now. It's like, why do I know? I haven't even heard that ad in years. I don't have cable TV anymore. See the power of repetition, the power of, even if it's a horrible jingle, if it's somewhat catchy in your mind, that's all it takes. That's what Watchtower's done. They are straight up brainwashing people with that cartoon. Now all of a sudden people are gonna work hard in school. I mean, it's never really been pushed before. And they said that you'll do better in life, you'll have more options in life. When have they ever taught that? That's just very bizarre to me, and that's one of the holes in their boat. The other one was the cleanliness video. Um, the fact that the Watchtower, um, oh, I was talking about that earlier, and then Rick started the cartoon or whatever it was for me. And the new Watchtower is telling children, I'll sum it up, telling children to get baptized at a very young age, like immediately, basically. Telling the people to trust into the governing body, no matter, uh, you know, the same rhetoric, whether it's mentally sound or not. Um, And then they're using fear mongering, and they really, really are doubling down that Russia is the um, king of the North. And I need cash now. It's Keith Silver. But yeah, they're really pushing that Russia's the king of the North, and that they're pushing the image with what is that image with the guy who's got the head of gold and it goes all the way down to the feet of clay, and they think that's uh, America and England, I think, the Anglo-Saxon dual world power. But they're pushing fear mongering, and they're just doing all these things. And then, like I said, Mark Sanderson's talk, they need workers. It's like, why do you need workers? Why? You never had a problem before. He was really emphasizing on it. And then just all these new things that are coming out. It's revealing who they are and what's happening to them. Because where's the talk about where's the talk that's like for encouragement? How come we don't hear talks that say that, one day, or why don't we hear, not even about paradise? Why don't we hear about positivity now? Where's all the positivity? To sum it up, basically, it's fear mongering these days in their literature and whatever in their videos, and it's obedience, and it's it's donations, and it's apostates. That the religion that I was in, it at least did have some kind of the religion that I was in. It at least had some kind of in the 80s or 90s, like some kind of encouragement. Like JP was talking about how they had one about Jesus, you know, and he usually pushed the Awake article, and we did because I I was a pioneer for a year, and I almost never pushed the Watchtower. It depended on the subject, but they were almost always too hardcore. And let's see, the LDS Church is going through transition also, Eric. That's from Keith Silver. Yeah. Gee, why are all these cults making transitions? Why are they all similar? You know? But that's what I've come up with what Watchtower is up to. They've made so many bad decisions for everybody that they're literally trying to rewrite their history, and they have. They've burned it too. They've burned their books and tried to get rid of it, but people like us still know about it and have copies of it. But they have some serious issues going on right now, and basically they have so many holes in the bolt. They don't a hole starts and they start to fix it, but another one happens right next to it, and then supposedly I don't know if it's even been talked about on six screens yet, but I have seen that the governing body are personally being sued for child sex abuse that happened in New York, the cases in New York, and the courts seem to be. I don't have any of the documents, but I did look at them. But I think Vern, no, who did I see it from? JP sent it to me, and I can't remember. Oh, it was Bjorn Pickett's, but he had the documentation to prove it that it's happening, and I just think that they're crumbling. I think that the Titanic is finally sinking. It's not just sinking; it's a friggin' dumpster fire. It's on fire and it's on in the water. It's really going down. And I know we say that a lot, and Rick keeps saying it, and he even said it tonight too, how they're crumbling. And I know it probably gets sick of hearing, but we really are watching the destruction of them in front of our eyes. I don't see how they can keep going. Um, and why I feel that way the most is just based on their literature, what they're putting out in their videos. They if they really had the truth and they were good people, they wouldn't have to do damage control. They wouldn't even talk about apostates. Um, are you able to drink soda and coffee in LDS Dallas? That's a good question, actually. Not there's caffeine in it. They don't do caffeine. Eric, they haven't fixed any holes at all, just band-aids. She's going down. Yeah, thank you, Becky. I agree. That I mean, like the disfellowship arrangement, right? You're right, Becky, because they could have done a proper repair, and they could have, brought wood that they had in the ship and screwed it down because they have all the resources. I know I'm using this all as a metaphor, but they don't. Instead, they want to keep their power, or they don't want to fix it. That's the problem. They don't want to fix it because they're not sorry. They just want to cover it up, like you said, put a band-aid on it because that's all they've done. And when they changed the disfellowship arrangement, that's pretty much what they did. Because they didn't change it. They put a band-aid on a bullet wound. That's a really good analogy. Thanks, Becky. But they're not even fixing it properly because they don't care. Because they're hackers and they're unloving men. They have no empathy. Um, I, Rick was saying that they listen to shows like this, and I hope it hurts they probably don't listen to it personally, but I hope when they hear about it, I hope it hurts their little egos because they've really hurt people bad. And I don't know. Sometimes you wonder if there's repentance for everybody. There's some unforgivable things. Tried to call in now. Connection. Oh, is there anybody on the phone line, or is the phone lines not working? That was Life After Religion, Dan and Angela. I think you said tried to call in. Called twice. I can hear but not talk. Huh. Well, if Rick's there, can you see what's going on with that? Um, well, just letting you know, Rick Farron, if you're listening, we'll need help on the phone lines. That's really weird. I'd like to hear from Dan. He always has good things, good comments. Him and Angela, they've both been through it in cults, and they have a lot of experience. I really appreciate you guys too singing tonight. It actually put me in a good mood. I appreciate it. A friend of mine was listening too. And she thought you were a good singer too. But yeah, you guys, it's I really don't know why the phone lines aren't working. Hmm. Well, Rick might be in the other room or something, just taking a break. But we'll get him on eventually. Let's see. Does the link work, Dan? You could try coming on the link, and I'll let you through there. But that's not always convenient. But anyways, if there's anybody else that wants to, well, I guess you can't chime in on the phone. But if you want to hit the link, you can come on in. What was I saying here? I really wonder why the phone lines aren't working. I got a guest on here. Oh, here's Stefan.
Can you hear me okay?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Hey, I'm dying to tell you something. You got 2 seconds? It's
Yeah.
it's ties directly in with what you're talking about. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the YouTube channel. It's called Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan is right along the level of a Joe Rogan. If anybody's familiar with Joe Rogan, he's a pretty famous podcaster.
Yeah, yep.
Sean's right along the same lines as him. I think he's got about 3.5 million
Okay.
subscribers. He's a former Navy SEAL, good guy. I like listening to his show. But in any event, he had on Rick Allen Ross. Now, a lot of times people hear the name Rick Ross, they think of that rapper guy.
Yeah, the musician.
Yeah, this is not him. This is the author.
Okay.
Rick
Okay.
Allen Ross is a person who specializes in cults and deprogramming. But anyway, this blew my mind. Rick was on Sean's program 3 hours, 3 hour show. And it was all about, his research on the cults and all the rest of this. And I'm telling you, it was mind blowing. And I'm only sharing this right now because, you've been talking about the damage that these cults can create. But anyway, he was on this show, and the very first cult that he talked about was who, right? And it was really interesting because Sean, who's the host, he kept chiming in because his producer is an ex-J-Dub. And he would say, you know what, wait a minute. He says, this is blowing my mind. My producer is an ex-J-Dub, and he's going through what you're talking about right now. He talked about the disfellowshipping. He talked about when you go to court and there's child custody and how Watchtower jumps in. He's like, it's almost like they have a book on what they do to fight these cases. And he went in depth with some things. And it was just amazing, all the things that he was saying, because the guy kept saying, yeah, this is exactly what my producer is going through right now. And it was just blowing my mind, the stuff, that he was talking about. So I'm just saying that if anybody's got time, like I said, it is pretty long because he doesn't just discuss that one cult. He discusses cults in general, their tactics, their techniques, how they do what they do. Talks about cults we probably all heard of, like Scientology and the Moonies, which is where Stephen Hassan comes from.
So he's like a specialist.
No, he's an actual specialist. He's a
Yeah.
multi-book writer. He has been on the Oprah show. This guy is very famous. If you ever just study cults in general, not specific, but just cults in general. And then he also, like I says, you can contact him. He was talking about how he assisted some of the family of the Seagrams distributing company, the liquor company Seagrams. They make the wine coolers and all that kind of stuff. They have families that were wrapped up in cults, and he was able to get 2 of the 3 family members deprogrammed. I think the third one refused to leave, but fortunately the cult collapsed. So yeah, he's very famous in this. If you've ever studied cults, you've probably run across something that came out of one of his books. And he's even been on the Oprah show. I think he's been on the Oprah show several times.
Did he ever mention Jehovah's Witnesses on the Oprah show?
That was the very first one he commented on. The
no
very
kidding.
first one. Yeah, you get to
what decade was this?
This is a show that just aired on like Monday of this week.
Oprah's still on?
Oh, you mean on the Oprah show? No, I don't know what decade it was on the Oprah show. If you look it up, you'll see. If you look him up, you'll see.
Okay, gotcha.
But he was on the Sean Ryan. They released that just this past Monday. It was mind blowing, and he said something that was really interesting. And then I'll leave it at that because they brought up. I guess somebody asked a question about the J-Dubs, and he said, well, the J-Dubs have actually surpassed just being a cult. He said they're a cultish organization, and I would have loved to have been able to say, "Can you elaborate on exactly what you mean?" So I'm going to see if there's some kind of contact information out there where I can ask him a little bit more about what did he mean that they started off, as a cult of personality under Charles Taze Russell. What do you mean that they have now gone beyond that and they're now a cultish organization? I'd love to know. But yeah, he knew a lot of the history. He knew a lot about the arrangement. So there is definitely somebody or somebodies that he's talked to. He had all of his ducks in a row about the organization, some of their major changes, even now talking about changes with the disfellowshipping and all the rest. So if anybody's got time, definitely go check that out. Sean Ryan Show. Like I said, he's got about 3.5 million views. And the cult person is Rick Allen Ross.
It's so great that when people that weren't even in it, the organization stuff, and that they like recognize that they're harmful, dangerous, and warn people about them.
Right.
It's a service to everybody. There's a brother, I can't remember his name. There's a guy on this program sometimes that Rick's had on. I can't remember his name for the life of me. And he's never been a Jehovah's Witness, and he has a book, and he exposes them and all the practices. He's been on the show. I just can't remember his name in the moment. But anyways, it's just always endearing or encouraging when people are, or even people not of our faith that weren't in our faith that stick up for us. But even what's the girl that's in Scientology? I can't think of her name. She was on
Leah Remini.
Leah Remini. Yeah, she had Lloyd Evans on and other ex Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's like it's very it's very encouraging when people look into other cults, because I'm so wrapped up in ours, I don't really have time for LDS. Not that I wouldn't if I met somebody from there, but
Right.
yeah. Thanks for that. We'll have to check him out. And what was his name again? Can you say that one more time? I'll
His
write it
name
down.
is Sean Ryan. He's a former Navy SEAL. So he has a lot of people that have come out of the military to talk about the U.S. government and different things that go on in governments around the world. And then he's even had politicians and ex-politicians come on the show. But he had, like I said, he had Rick Allen Ross. But Rick Allen Ross has been around for a while. Like I said, he's been on the Oprah Show multiple times.
Yeah,
He's written multiple
that's
books
cool.
on the subject. And then, like I said, he's even assisted with deprogramming people away from cults. In other words, family members have contacted him saying, "Hey, we can't reach our daughter. We can't reach our son. They're so up into this cult. We just can't even barely have a conversation with them. Can you please help?" And they've been able to do what I'll call an intervention. And he's been able to assist in excess of 500 people to come out of cults, according to what the internet says.
Yep. When you were talking about Joe Rogan, there
Mhm.
was a comedian that was an ex Jehovah's Witness that went on his show. I
Okay.
can't remember his name, but when he was talking to him and just giving his story,
Yep.
Joe Rogan like did a little, because he always fact checks things. He's like, "Oh yeah, they're a cult," and anytime there's exposure like that especially on a podcast like Joe Rogan, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Anti witnessing, if you want to call it that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, bringing attention to this because, like I said,
Yeah,
Sean's show, he's got 3.5 million subscribers.
that's
Joe
great. Yep.
Rogan's probably got 3 times that. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, my wife showed it to me. She said, "Look how they're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses," and I'm like, "That's beautiful." Kurt Kurtzinger or Messenger. I can't remember his. He's got a weird. I think it's Kurt, but he's got a weird last name, or I
Okay.
should say weird, but just unusual.
Yeah.
Um,
I know what you mean.
but he even he was on they had this little comedy special where different comedians, all different types of comedians, would come on, and he would they would tell a story of something that would happen in their life, and it usually not well, it was always a really funny story, no matter who told it. I think his name is Kurt Metzinger. Metzinger. It's like a Jewish name or something like that. I don't know. I
Okay.
know I'm not pronouncing it right, but
Hmm.
anyways, he tells the story, and it's a crazy long story, and I can't really do it justice. And even though the story is funny, it just there's so much darkness in it, and it's good because he said that one thing that the religion did for him is that it taught him to be a really good liar. And as funny as that sounds, there's so much truth in that, isn't there, bro?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know something that was
Hey,
really
we got
sad.
another guest here, Linda. Hi, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. I was
Hi,
listening
Linda.
to, hi. You know what? You gave me some really encouraging statements on a
I
different
did.
show when I was really down about my nephew who was going to Bethel next month. And
Oh yeah.
thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot.
No
To the
worries.
audience, he suggested that, we don't know, this might wake him up. So I was really in a bad place in my head because my nephew's going to be going to Bethel next month. But the reason I wanted to come in tonight was because, yeah, Rick Ross's old school, cult study guy. And you were saying that it's almost like they have a book about
It
going to
was
court and stuff. They
yeah.
do. They do have
Yeah.
a book.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. I was saying I wish that because by the time I heard this show, this isn't live. This is recorded and released, so there's no way to reach
Mhm.
them while they're filming. Because I would have told Rick that they do in fact have a book. Now, what he did say further into the program when he was just kind of talking about cults in general, he was talking about how these cults, if you get into a custody battle, so let's say in a Jehovah Witness context, you have a non-witness parent and they get divorced, and the witness parent will be instructed to tell the child to say that the non-witness parent touched them inappropriately in court,
Yeah,
so that the
sure.
court will say, oh well, this person's, they're some kind of a pedophile, they don't need to be around. They will instruct them to do that. And like I said, and then Sean, who's the host of the show, he said my producer is going through that right now. He's in court battling to have some kind of custody for his kids, and he's dealing with that right now. And that's when Rick Allen Ross said, yeah, it's almost like they have some kind of a book that they go by because they do the same thing over and over again. And like I said, the show is already recorded because I would have definitely chimed in and said, no, they have a book on this.
Yeah, it'd be great to be, sent to to get that, I don't know, the website or whatever to get it sent
Hmm.
to them because to
Yeah.
hear that the host is going through that, I interviewed William Bowen and he let me know that right off the bat, if a couple, one of them becomes an unbeliever, the one that's a believer is encouraged to get a um, what is that called when you get a 30 to where they can't come over for like 30 days? They can't
Restraining
come
order.
visit. Thank you. Yes, a restraining order, claim that they're abusing you or whatever. So that kicks them out of the house for 30, 90 days or whatever. And they encourage the believing mate, the elders do, encourage the believing mate to say such things that they can, have this restraining order, and then that person that's the non-believer is going through hell.
Exactly.
You know?
And
And
I'll tell you something else that he mentioned. He mentioned this was a completely different cult. And the husband, when the wife woke up and decided she didn't want to have anything else to do with the cult, the husband took the kids and vanished.
yeah,
And I think it took something. I think it was it was more than a decade before the mom finally got her children. She would go back and
yeah,
forth to court. They would haul in the so-called elders and the higher ups in whatever this cult was. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. And they would come to court and they would all sit there and lie and say that they knew nothing about the whereabouts of these children. When they finally found these kids, and the FBI was involved, and they were doing as much as they could, scouring the nation trying to look for these kids as much as they could. They finally found the kids, and the kids told them, they said, we knew you were looking for us, and we were told to keep quiet. We couldn't reach out and contact you. They said Dad knew where we were. All these, people in the cults knew where we were, and even the leader of the cult knew exactly where we were. Yet they'd all go to court time after time after time and lie and say they didn't know where they were.
Watchtower has done this as well and taken them out
Excuse
of the
me.
country.
Sorry.
That's correct.
Some children.
That is
I
correct.
also
That's
wanted to
why.
mention that
Mhm.
as good as Rick Ross is, and he is good, I've heard him say numerous times that he does not consider the Jehovah's Witnesses a destructive cult. He doesn't see them as a destructive cult. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's behind in his homework. he knows a good amount of all kinds of stuff, but not a destructive cult. I question that. It's like,
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
if you
know.
watch this latest episode that I was talking about, you'll probably change your mind. I think he's definitely been schooled, because there were
Did he
things
did he
that
change his tune?
I don't know
That
what
he
he
did.
said in the past, so I couldn't make that. I couldn't make that assessment. But you
Yeah.
definitely would know.
Sometimes people, wise men and women, will say I was wrong,
Hmm.
and move forward, because that's a part of learning and becoming a wiser person. The moment you think you know everything, you don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And hell,
The
you
thing,
can learn from 18-year-olds, from kids, from older people, from all different types of people,
right. But it was just very
backgrounds.
obvious that he has had many conversations with ex-members, because he just knew. He knew the history. He knew the lingo. He's talked
Mhm.
to people. There's no doubt about it. He's talked to people.
So William Bone has the Silent Lambs, which is always open and available, and talks about the latest you know atrocities of Watchtower and sometimes some other groups as well. But William Bowen is also a um, I lost it, like a witness that can go to court and speak on behalf of this producer's situation. Professional witness, I forget what they call them, but um, so he has that as well, that qualification. And this producer could probably really expert witness. That's what he's called, an expert witness. So it would be helpful if people know that as well, and they can always call him and ask, a few questions or whatever. But
Sure.
when stuff like this goes down with the custody of your children, the organization plays dirty, and they just won't share. I mean, they've encouraged people to just get up and leave. They drain the account. The believing um, JW. There's been so many times I've heard personal stories that are even documented on, you know, online, where they would come home from work or whatever to an empty apartment. The bank account has been drained, furniture is all gone, and they have no clue where their spouse or kids are. And this at different elders. I'm not saying every single elder body does this, but it has been encouraged by the elders. It's really horrible.
Yeah,
But
it
anyway,
totally is. I mean, the fact that this organization and all these cults would just sacrifice the relationship of a kid with their parent just to keep them in the cult. That is the very definition of an evil, destructive cult.
Mm.
yeah, it's called parental alienation when they're talking negative about the other parent, which of course having an elder walk into your house and tell the other person,
Right,
you're not the spiritual head, and
right.
this other person, is can't talk anything spiritual with their own children. How
Yeah,
dare them?
I know.
How dare
I, I'll tell
them?
you something. You just brought something up to me. In my mind, Apostle Babe. When I was a kid, because my dad was a witness for like 2 nanoseconds. It's kind of funny. I think he was only a witness for a couple years. And I was a little kid, and I remember when his name was read off the platform. I didn't know what was going on. Everybody was crying, so I started crying. I don't know why. And I got home, my dad was there, nothing changed, and so I didn't know what that was about as a little kid. But I remember I was getting to be a teenager, and this elder said to me one day, he called me a spiritual. What did he call me? A spiritual orphan?
Father, Oh
A
yes, a
fatherless boy.
fatherless
That's it,
child.
Apostle Babe. No, 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 no.
Yes.
You said it. You said it. A fatherless boy. And I'm telling you, I went off. I lost my mind because I was very close to my dad, and my dad was a real dad. Always there
Mhm.
for you, whatever you need, whenever you want to talk. I mean, whatever you need. He was the real deal. And for you to say, I'm a fatherless boy, I lost it. And so that was never said to me again. But I'm just gonna here you have a father in the house that you see every single day who takes care of you, puts food on your back, any problems you have, he's right behind you. Anything you need to fix, he's right there to fix. And somebody's gonna have the nerve to call you a fatherless boy.
That's horrible.
I said, wow, what I ought to do is call my father and let him come down here and stick his foot up your butt and see if I'm
Mhm.
fatherless. Then that's what that's what I started doing. I started threatening those elders with my dad.
Actually, you're right. That's fighting words, Stefan.
That's fighting words. How dare you
That's
do
fighting
that?
Very,
words. Your dad's
Yeah,
alive, and he's there for you.
mhm.
yeah. Not just
That
Very
alive, but
that is
alive and
demasculating.
fighting
there for
words.
me. Yeah. And
Very
I tell you,
demasculating.
these people, man, they are out of control. I mean,
Mhm.
how dare you say that to someone? My dad went to work every day, and he worked a
Yep,
hard job at a
supported you
steel
kids.
mill to take care of me. It was just me; I was the only kid to take
Okay,
care of me. And you're gonna have the
you and
nerve
your
to
mom.
say I'm a fatherless boy? Wow, how disrespectful!
Yeah, I think
I
it's
agree,
even
brother.
code. I think it's even code for we need to get a Bible study started with this child, and whoever the Bible study conductor is gets to kind of take the place and play a fatherly role, which, as you said, your father was in your life. That
Right?
brother has no business, you know, doing that
Hmm.
if that was the case. If and I'm just talking my own opinion. I haven't seen it written down anywhere, but it just seems that way. It's almost like when they get up on the platform and say so and so is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, everybody knows it's now time to shun them. Even though that's not said, the followers know this, and I just think that when they talk about fatherless children from the platform, I just think that's code for having another brother step in and take the fatherly position. Just my opinion. I haven't heard that confirmed, but yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would agree.
Yeah.
a dear friend that I grew up with, Jacob. He had three brothers and a mother and a father, and his dad served in Vietnam, and he was a gearhead. Had nice older trucks and cars sometimes in his garage, tinkered, and he wanted nothing to do with the witnesses. And the first two boys got baptized, but they got disfellowship pretty quickly, and then come back. And then they woke up and became homos. The other two boys, the I guess the third one you could say he never got baptized, wanted nothing to do with it right from the get go.
He was smart. He was
Lives a
smart.
good life, got a kid, wife and kids. I'm out of touch with that family, but and then there was Jacob, the youngest, and he got baptized, and we were the bad boys in the religion, and we
Mhm.
both got disfellowshipped around the same time and hung out, but they were always looked down upon, that family, by the other families in the congregation. And an elder told me one time, um, that he said this to me. We were working together on a roof, and he said, Eric, Jacob. I'm like, yeah. He's like, he's gonna be a loser just like the rest of his brothers. He's gonna drop out of the truth just like the rest of them, and just be careful being around him. And he was like one of my best friends back then. Really, I mean, we were very very tight. And I got in trouble a lot with my mouth because I he really upset me, and I said, I'm just I'm just gonna say what I said. I said,
Good.
fuck you for saying that. And I'm like, you're damning the guy before he can even like have a chance. You're already made up your mind. That's an asshole thing to say. That's exactly what I said to him, word for word. And I got he got mad at me and told me that I shouldn't be swearing. He was an elder. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't be talking like that. I'm like, there's no positivity in the conversation. I was a smart mouth kid when I was probably 16 or 17, but I knew I knew that I shouldn't have backmouthed to an elder like that, but like he kind of was one of those guys that was cool, and for the most part, and he like was one of the younger guys, even though he was an older married guy. We did like him, and he was a kind brother, but he was just cocky sometimes and said really stupid things. Um, and he might have ate those words, but I think it's a badge of honor that that only the wife was a Jehovah's Witness, and all the boys bailed out of it, and good for them, you know. And
I
you
Yep.
know what?
found it.
I would
I,
love to get
I
Jacob on the phone line
that'd
with
be
us,
great.
but there's some people out there, and this is encouraging to our audience. We have an army of ex Jehovah's Witnesses because he wants nothing to do with the XJW community. He's finally moved on with his life. He finally, I heard he's married and has a kid, and the friends that he has like a mutual friend of ours that all live together in Naples, Florida, and they've all moved on and have families and live good lives, and they want nothing to do with it. And I understand those people for not wanting to be activists or not wanting to get involved with it at all. But it's just encouraging to us in our audience that there's more people out there than we would even know.
Yep.
Exactly. And I've met some as well. I didn't find out until later because my dad, much like what I forgot your name already, and I always hear you say it.
Stefan.
Stefan.
Thank you, Stephen. Sorry.
No problem. That's okay.
I think my neurons are not connecting, but you said your dad was a witness for like a nanosecond. That's the same thing with my dad. And I didn't find out until later in life that if your father didn't go to the Kingdom Hall with your mother, you and her and her kids were considered spiritually weak. So that goes along with what you just got done saying, um, Eric. So it's as though he was encouraging you not to associate with him. He falls into that spiritually weak category. And,
Yep.
and I can remember hearing about different activities that people from the congregation went to, and we were not invited and stuff. But I would hear them talking about what a great time they had, and just always wondered why were we not invited. And once I learned that, it made sense. We were considered spiritually weak in the congregation, and my mother used to hang out with single women who had kids, you know? So, yeah, it's kind of a unspoken
Yeah. I
thing, you
had
know?
I had that same exact experience. I couldn't understand, coming up because it was like I could play with the kids in the neighborhood maybe, let's see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Then we'd go to the hall Thursday, and then it was, well, you can't play with them; they're worldly. And I
Yep.
was
Hmm.
like, I just was playing with them Monday, too. What? And I never, I was a little kid. I wasn't putting it together that they'd go to these meetings and then they'd hear about the world. Well, these kids across the street next door, not they're the world. You can't. So then you have nobody to play with. So
Yeah,
then you're just kind
very.
of you're sad and just getting into stuff because you. So then it was like, okay, you can play with them, but it goes back to what you just said. When a member of a family was disfellowship, then the congregation would treat the entire family as being
Yes.
disfellowship. And I remember them in a local needs talk, and I can only assume that Nana went to them and said, "Hey, all these kids in the hall, but none of them get with my son
Hmm.
because whatever the reason, can you do something about it?" So I remember them. They had a local, what is it, local needs part where they actually said, if a member of the family is disfellowship, that doesn't mean every member of the disfellowship is disfellowship, and you can associate with them. And in fact, they need association because who else do they have? And then slowly, and I do mean slowly, people started like calling and inviting me over and this and that. But at the end of the day, I don't think I ever really quite fit in there, and that was probably the reason.
Yeah, I think that those of us that fell into that category was even isolated even more
Hmm.
so if we weren't allowed to associate with non-JWs. But anyways, I
Exactly.
got to get ready for my show, so I'm going to let you go.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
Thanks
Awesome.
for coming on, Linda. You have a good show tonight, honey. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. Good to see you, Bob Roberts.
Yeah. Hey,
Good night,
Bob.
guys.
Good night, Linda. Well, there's Linda James, and when my show ends, if you guys want, jump all over there. But that comment Bob Roberts made me laugh. But hey, JP, I see you're here and you've been quiet for a while. Do you want to say something? And I love your avatar, by the way.
That is cool.
It's dope. That's like you. It's got to be updated though. It needs a beard now.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm just here just to support your show.
That's
I
cool,
was
man.
just, I
How
was
you
like,
doing tonight?
oh, really good. I'm thanks for sending me that Christmas gifts. I'm really enjoying it
Yeah,
now.
that's no
But,
problem, man.
yeah, I was just I'm liking what Linda said and that, but at the second, I don't have nothing to say at the moment. So maybe if you and Stefan want to keep talking. Hey, Stefan, how you doing?
JP, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. I got to call you, man. It's been a while
Okay.
since we talked on the phone.
All right. I'll be around tomorrow, and if not, just try me anytime.
Okay, cool, man.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Hey,
Hey, you know what?
if you get
Oh,
time,
go
JP,
ahead, son.
check out that program I was talking about on the Sean Ryan channel with Rick
Okay.
Allen Ross. It'll blow your mind, dude. It'll blow
Okay,
your mind.
I'm always looking to get my mind blown, and then I'll watch it, and then I'll watch it, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Okay. Okay. Cool. That's what we'll do. Yeah. I look forward to it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what's up, Eric? What's going on
You
tonight?
know what? I was going to ask you guys since you're here. Like, it, this is just my speculation, but there's a cleanup going on right now in at the White House. Well, it's going to happen, and I'm actually there because there's so many guys and gals that are getting into office, like Kash Patel. Um, is going to probably clean out. Is it the FBI and CIA? We've got Elon Musk that's going to start to look into things, so trim the fat, so to speak, in our government. What else are they going to do? Are they going to start to look into cults or religion? It's a possibility. There is so much change happening at once, and maybe the audience is saying, "Nah, Eric, I don't think so." But remember, Donald Trump said, "We're gonna keep on winning. You're gonna get sick of it. You're gonna say, 'No, Mr. President, no more winning, please. I can't handle it.' But we're gonna keep going. We're gonna win forever. It's just
Oh
win,
man,
win, win."
that's
But
uncanny, man. That's uncanny.
if if that's the way it goes, like I don't know, like maybe there'll be some change. Maybe we'll get rid of some of the toxicity that we have in our country altogether, whether it be religiously, politically, or whatever. I
Well,
don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I'll say this, and this is about all that I can contribute on that topic. I was thinking about this just a couple of days ago. Part of the reason why all of these cults have so much money, because on that podcast I was just talking about with Rick Allen Ross, he said Watchtower is estimated to be worth $50 billion. Now I don't know where he got that
55
number.
0.
Yeah,
Wow.
not 55, 50, 50
5
billion,
0.
50,
50.
50
Okay. Yep.
billion. But the U.S. government and governments around the world are partly responsible for the amount of money that they've amassed because they give them money as charitable organizations. So the most that I
Mhm.
hope for is that maybe things will get bad, or they'll be looking at government spending and say, yeah, why do we give these charitable organizations that don't do anything all this money and stop contributing money? I guarantee you, if they do that, half of these churches will probably fold up overnight, because these people are not there to worship God or serve community. They're there to make money. So if the government would stop, so a lot of these cults, they've gotten to the levels that they've gotten to because of receiving money from the governments. So if they
Mhm.
would take a look at that, if they're trying to save money, and if they want to get rid of some of this government bloat, that would definitely be one area they could take a look at. Why are you giving Christian organizations that are supposed to be charities that do nothing charitable? Why are you giving them millions of dollars every year for what?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I can't. If they're gonna go big, I see these guys going all in. Like it seems like they want to clean house in our government and in our country, I just don't think that Watchtower can get away with it all. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen. It's just my brain thinking that maybe it's a possibility that I mean, we've already got Michelle Henry that's pretty pissed off about what's going on in Pennsylvania. I think she's the attorney general. But or not the attorney general. Sorry, she's the prosecutor. But I can't remember what her role is in it. But I don't see Watchtower lasting very long, only because like even with the cult within the entertainment industry, Hollywood, it's like a lot is being exposed. A lot is being exposed from them, and we don't know yet. But I have a feeling that we're gonna know. I have a feeling that we're gonna know all about that Diddy list, and then on top of that, we have Epstein. There's just politicians and there's celebrities that are all entangled in this. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it feels like there's a mass awakening, like there's a mass like exposure happening right now, and the witnesses are certainly being exposed too. The fact that the governing body have a potential lawsuit where they're going to be personally brought to court for being responsible for hiding a child sex abuse in New York. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of the the dirty deeds that they all have done for all these decades or even a century. It's like it's all catching up to them now. Finally.
Hmm. I think even in that podcast, Mr. Rick Allen Ross mentioned how the internet is really what's killing a lot of these organizations because people can go and research them, find out information, and more importantly, share information in a way that you never were able to before. I mean, just think in our lifetime. I mean, if you go back 30 years, 40 years ago, you got this fellowship. Even if you got this fellowship unfairly, you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe there's a group of people that just wanted to get rid of you. You had no voice. Where were you going to go? The most you could do is write a letter to Bethel or the governing body, which probably 9 times out of 10 would get ignored, thrown in a trash basket someplace, and that's it. And your reputation would be ruined. Nobody's talking to you, and there's basically nothing you could do about it. It's not the same now. Now, I mean, this guy was on this podcast, and theoretically, 3.5 million people heard what he had to say about cults in general and Jehovah's Witnesses in particular. There's no more hiding anymore.
Mm.
And I'm sure that most of these 3.5, these are non-witnesses, but guess what? They know what's going on in this organization now. So that the internet, as Rick always says, is a great equalizer.
Yeah, for sure. The internet and there's one more thing that Rick says is that COVID was the cult killer too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
And yeah,
sure.
but the internet has done more damage to that cult than well. That's the thing. COVID brought people to the internet. They
Right.
had more time on their hands, and the
Yeah.
internet's what destroyed them. Yeah,
Yeah. And can you
yeah.
imagine,
It's
as
all.
much as, like you just said, we rely on the internet, um, as much as we go online and we look up products, we were looking for a restaurant not too long ago to go for dinner. So of course you'd look up, well, what do people say? How is this thing rated? And you read too many people that say, oh, bad service, bad food. You're like, I'm not going there. And for Watchtower to sit up there and say, don't go online and research us. Don't look up our history. Don't look us up. Don't go to YouTube channels. Don't do this and don't do that. And you sit there and you think that people are not going to go and do exactly what you just said not to do. You'd be a fool not to.
Mm.
If somebody was to say, "Oh, don't go look this guy up. Just listen to what he says. Don't go look him up," and you were to do that, then you can't fix stupid. I don't know what to tell you because if you have half a brain, that's exactly what you should do.
You're dang right. You can't fix stupid. There's no pill for it.
Maybe we can invent one. I don't know.
Who was that? Was that Ron White that said that joke, or one of those guys from that?
I got that phrase from my ex boss who just retired a year or two ago, but he would have an interaction with somebody and he'd walk past me and he'd shake his head and he'd say, "Can't fix stupid." And then he'd just keep walking. That's where I got it. I don't
That's
know where
funny.
he got it. Maybe so.
Um,
You know
there
what's
was a
funny,
joke that. Go
Eric?
ahead, Jerry. Yeah.
Oh, you know what's funny is like what Stefan was saying is like in the last annual meeting with Jeffrey Jackson's talk, he was saying and bringing out what we would always think as witnesses, like, with the number of anointed ones, we'd look in the yearbook, and he was acknowledging that. You look in the yearbook, and he's like, the numbers were going down and down. And he was like, we would expect, some old guys, like people in wheelchairs,
Yeah,
basically getting ready to die. But he's like, what's happening? He's like, the numbers are going up and up and up. It's just so crazy. Like
they haven't gone up. They've stayed stagnant, and then they got desperate and fudged the numbers and brought disfellowship people in
I
to
think
bring it up.
well,
I think
I'm
the
talking,
number.
I'm talking about with the anointed ones, the ones that are
Yeah, he's
Oh, the
partaking.
talking about
anointed.
the
Sorry.
anointed numbers going up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah,
getting insane.
the anointed is. It just shows that they're probably. Oh, let's just assume that none of them are going to heaven. It's because they all self-assumed. That's what it is, basically.
And
Yeah, they
that
just
whole
claim
concept.
this class that they're not a part of. Maybe they're a part of, but they exclusively put it to themselves, which is cutting off all Christians, and that's completely unbiblical. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I'm not talking about the Jehovah's Witnesses from a atheist perspective. I'm talking about just from a Christian, like from a Christian point of view, they're just absolutely wrong, completely wrong with the 144,000, the
I believe
all
that hundred, whatever that class was, the 144,000, that it has to do with, like, it doesn't have anything to do with any of us. Like it's something. It might
yeah,
it
the
might
class
be
system they have
it
is
might be
completely
around Jesus'
unbiblical.
apostles or something, but it just, whatever
You
it
know,
means, it doesn't have anything to do with what they're claiming. Nothing. Like it's completely disconnected from it. I don't think any of us, like, I think it's ridiculous for anyone to claim that they're of the anointed, because when did God anoint you? Like David was anointed, like
exactly,
the apostle
exactly.
Peter and Jesus was anointed. I mean, and like when Jesus was anointed, it's like, this is my son, and he was like baptized, and the dove flew over, and the light shone down to the heaven from the heavens. It's like, like you were not anointed. What the apostles, Jesus' apostles, what was it that they had, like fire coming from their heads and their swords as tongues? It was a metaphor, but they could speak in tongues, and they were enlightened, and they could perform miracles. These guys are not anointed. You don't have any of that. You have no proof that you have been anointed by God.
That's correct. And another thing that they get wrong that JP mentioned about true Christianity is this concept of Jesus not dying on the cross. And if you go get your reasoning from the scriptures book, there's a small section in there about the cross, and they get their position that Jesus didn't die on a cross from this book, and they mention the book and the name of the book. You can go and look that book up online right now due to its age. You don't have to buy it or anything. You can go look it up right now. And if you Google the section that they're referring to, you'll notice that they put the ellipse in there, and they make the statement look as if what the author is saying is that during the time that Jesus lived, criminals were not executed on a stake. But when you read the actual statement, what it says is that they would have been executed on three variations of a cross. And whether it was, a cross like a T or like an X, and I forgot what the other one is. He wasn't saying that they weren't. He was saying that they were executed on a cross. The only question is which of three orientations. But they use the ellipsis to give the impression that Jesus wasn't. So they've known all this time that Jesus did, in fact, die on some sort of a cross. Not that it much matters how you die, but to sit up there and say that Jesus didn't die on a cross and that's a pagan teaching is just an outright lie that they have fostered all the way up to the present.
The thing is that it doesn't matter what he died on. He died on a piece of wood. Like, who
Yeah.
cares? Like, how he? It doesn't matter what. And I used to think the same thing. I used to think the cross was pagan. It's like, how dare I? Like, that's pagan for me to do that. But like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter how he died. You know why they made a big deal about it? so that they could look like that they were the truth and
They're
dupe
different.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want to
Exactly.
look.
They're con artists. They duped people. They duped
Exactly.
people into a false belief and say,
Hmm.
"Oh, look, and we have other truths. We found out that smoking is bad before everybody else. And what else? What other crap did they come up with? That we're going to live in a paradise Earth." And I don't
Right.
disagree with that actually, but I'm not going to push that belief down anyone's throat. But I do believe some things, but I would say like basically two things from the organization that God's name is Jehovah and that we have the hope to live forever. But I don't know. I don't push that on people. It's just what I
And,
think, you know.
and I think like with the cross, like what Stefan was saying, it's just something that's like kind of irrelevant, but as JW's wanted to push it, is something we have truth. Like, oh, he didn't die on a cross, he died on a stake.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when you look at it as a Christian, it really doesn't matter. It's like the witnesses are not getting the point that he died for us, and they want to, and that's what they use as another argument to show that there's a truth or whatever. It's like, oh, he didn't die on a stake, but even when you look at the history of it, it's pretty inaccurate what they're saying. But for them to just use that as like, oh, Jesus didn't die on a cross or something, to use it as a truth, to me it's just ridiculous, because
Yep.
they're not seeing the point of like that Jesus did die. It's like, who cares if his arms were outward, to the north and the east, or they're above him, like completely to the north. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
it
And,
doesn't matter.
and
It doesn't matter the position that his hands died in. It's the
Right.
matter of it's Christ's sacrifice, and that's what JWs don't realize. They want to argue like, oh, did he die on a cross or a stake? It's like, it doesn't matter. He died for us. That's the point that you guys are missing. You guys are
exactly.
just doing it
It's like superficial
to
to
try to,
like to
they're doing it to
argue
try
that
to
shit.
argue, yeah, to argue that, oh, well, we're the truth and that. And it's like, yeah, nobody knows really if Jesus died on a cross or a stake, but it really doesn't matter. The point being is you're missing his sacrifice. That's the whole point.
You know what's crazy is that you know who the teaching of the stake from Jehovah's Witnesses. You know what celebrity bought into that because he said that that was what convinced him that it was the organization. He even talked about it in a live show. Do you guys know who it was?
Probably Prince, right?
Was it
Yep,
Prince?
yeah, it was Prince. Yeah,
Prince, yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. He said that that Christ didn't die this way, but this way, and he did that in a live show. And then he talked about what that meant in an interview. I think you can find it somewhere. And
Hmm.
he was saying that that convinced him that a lot of Christianity had gotten it wrong. But see how what Watchtower does, even if it is true that he did die that way, it still doesn't matter. But
Exactly.
the people think that they have truth and they have something special here, and that they
Right.
are special, that they have are enlightened from this truth, and
Hmm.
they call it the truth.
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
And
it's what's
when
called
Jesus is the
esoteric. Like
truth.
you have this special knowledge that nobody else does, and that's what all these cults do. All of them
Yeah.
profess to have esoteric knowledge that nobody else has, and you come here, and we'll slowly but surely reveal to you the real truth that nobody else has, and that's what makes you a cult.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. These people, they think they know what they're saying, and people follow them, but if nothing comes out of like what they're saying, just like the Watchtower, they have all these years and all this, and nothing that all these dates that they've ever said, like nothing has
Oh,
ever
what happened?
came from any of these dates.
Well, we
So
had Keith Bush on from California, but he bounced off. Well, maybe we'll get him back.
yeah, we get our buddy Keith back on.
Well, anyways, Keith, you're welcome to come on, buddy. I was just waiting for JP to finish what he was saying before I introduced you.
No, that's all I wanted to say. But they have these
Yeah.
dates and all these time periods that we've all looked like. Not so much anymore, like the more modern people, but people like you, Eric, and Stefan, and me. Like I'm 41, and people that are above that age, like you and me, and even if Keith Bush calls back in, he can attest for all that too. That like we were just living on this generation, you know what I mean? That never
Yeah.
happened. And, the generation in 1914, they died and now they're overlapping it. But we see the false prophecies and that. So we see right through all these things that they're trying to pull with these new members and all this
Yeah,
other stuff. But
right.
I mean, it's just interesting to see like how much has changed since we've been used because it hasn't even been that long. Like, I mean, Stefan, Eric, and me, we're probably in our 40s, 50,
Correct.
and we've seen this organization become something that's so unrecognizable that if I were to go to a Kingdom Hall today, I wouldn't even know how to act or dress because if I acted like a regular Jehovah's Witness and I wore a suit and tie and brought a briefcase and a hard copy of the Bible and all that, it would completely throw off the witnesses. You know what I mean? They would think like I'm not one of them. That's what's so weird. And back in the day, like it was all about like having a Bible and preaching the word, counting your time.
Yep.
And nowadays, it's just unrecognizable. With the beard
Yep.
and the pants too, and
Yep. Yep.
it's unbelievable. But
Uh,
that such is how things go. That's how we see. What'd you have to say, Stephen?
I was
Stephen?
just thinking when you said they're unrecognizable. I work right across the street from one of the busiest train depots called Union Station in downtown Chicago. And right before the weather broke not too long ago, I went out for lunch and I walked past, and there's always a group of witnesses with the cart, whatever that thing is called, Metropolitan. And sometimes I know them, and if I know them, I'll walk over and speak with them. But I looked over and I saw the cart, but I didn't see any witnesses. And then I did a double check, and the people that I thought weren't witnesses, in fact, turned out to be witnesses. The guy was there. He didn't have on a jacket. He had on like a multicolored shirt and a multicolored tie, and he had the beard, and he just did not look like a witness. I just thought the cart was sitting there and nobody was really manning it. And like I said, once I did the double check, I said, "Oh my goodness, that is the actual witness. This guy, you would have walked past this guy, and never in a million years, just from his appearance, thought that he was a Jehovah Witness." And I just said to myself, "Man, how things have changed." And I couldn't even imagine if you had older, witnesses that had passed on that somehow came back to life, and they went to a Kingdom Hall and they hear the nonsense that they're talking about and how so many teachings have changed and been discounted, and they're looking at elders with beards, and you don't need to have a jacket on. You could be, remember in COVID, I think all you needed was 15 minutes of time, and you could be considered a regular pioneer and go to regular pioneer school when these people had to put in 100 something hours every month. I couldn't even imagine how they would feel. They would
Yeah, no
probably
doubt,
be
stuff.
they would probably be thinking, what in the world is going on?
That's me right now. Hi guys.
Hey, Em, how
Hello.
you doing?
Good. How are you,
This is my
Keith?
friend Emily.
Hello.
Hi guys.
Emily, this is Stefan and JPJ.
Hi,
Hello.
Emily. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Unfortunately, all we see is the top of your head because there's this.
Well, that's because my house is a mess and I
Uh,
just figured this out. So
No,
yeah.
it's
Plus,
this.
well, the link. It's the
Yeah,
link that's in the way. There's a
yeah.
banner that gives
Oh,
a
there
link.
she is. Hey, we
There
got
you
her.
are.
All right. All right.
Hey, no
There we
worries.
go.
Hey,
There we
so I
what,
wanted to chime
what's
in
on your
here.
mind tonight, Emily? What's on your mind tonight?
Well, actually, a couple things were on my mind. I wanted to chime in at the school video. Honestly,
Yeah.
I am a ex-Lutheran, born and raised in the church, all the way from choir, band to sports traveling league, and my parents were part of the whatever is up there in the congregation. We're just not going to name it. But so having explored other options and being the background I have, the school part really caught my ear and my attention because when I was 16, I got pregnant and I got disowned from the church. And then I had her and they wanted to baptize her. And
Were
then I
you
dropped out of school. So
were
it's
you
just
ever
a lineup
were
that
you
keeps coming back.
were you ever an XJW?
No, she's
No, I
ex-Lutheran.
just support you guys and I love
Oh,
hearing
okay,
that.
I see. Yeah, thank you for calling in tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn my
Yeah,
face
because
off
even
now.
like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, I didn't want to cut you off. Keep going.
No, it's fine. I want to hear what you guys have to say as well, not just take over.
But it's not. It's not, that's the problem. There's been like a lot of religions that have done a lot of hurt. I'm not saying all religion. Like Jerry goes to a pretty good church, but they're not necessarily a dime a dozen. Like America and churches around the world have been infiltrated with like Illuminati churches, and a lot of people have bad experiences in all different faiths, or just it's not even experiences; it's the practices that the religions teach that
I
because it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses that shun. We're probably one of the worst ones that do it, like how intense it is. But other I don't even think the Mormons shun as hardcore. I know it's bad, but it's not even as bad as us. I think us and Scientologists are the worst.
um yeah,
Can I
I've
can I
heard
ask a
and
question? The young lady that was talking, I was trying to keep track of what you just said. So you mentioned they put you out because you were pregnant as a teenager.
yes, so I got pregnant at 16 and
Hmm.
my boyfriend at the time was not a good guy. So they shunned me because
Oh,
I was out of wedlock. I was a teenager and I didn't have a future, quote unquote.
wow.
So, because of that, I turned away from the church, the Lutheran church. I turned away from my faith. I even just the other day told my grandma that I'm not a believer anymore. And it made me chuckle a little bit when she said, "You need to pray." I asked her why, and she did not have a response. So, that's where I'm left.
So instead of the LDS saying, where you're having a child, maybe we should give you some kind of special attention or spend
Lutheran.
time with you. Lutheran, sorry, Lutheran. They
Thank you.
just decide the best course of action is not to talk to you.
Yes. And
Yeah.
kicked me
And I
out of.
never can understand that. It's like, let's see, I'm sick. Let me go to a hospital, and they say, "Oh, you're sick. You can't even come in here." Is that
Oh,
just ass
the
backwards, or is
sad
it
thing
me?
is, that actually does happen to me too. That's another story for another day. But
Okay.
Mm.
I'm just used to it because up until that point of being the quote unquote adult, the mother, the quote unquote picture that was painted for me already by my parents in the Lutheran way,
Hmm.
I took a step out. I got pregnant. Forgot where I'm going with the story now. What did you ask? I'm
No,
so nervous to be
I
here,
was
you
trying
guys.
to
I'm
get some
sorry.
background
No, you're good, Emily.
why they put you out. That's what it was.
It was all because of the wedlock and who I was with. I thought I could change the guy. Obviously, I was young. I wanted to change him for love.
Okay.
And then
That
the
sounds very
church ended
Jehovah's
up.
Witness like.
What was that?
That sounds very Jehovah's Witness like.
I
Like
thought so, and that's
I've
why I
known
wanted to
people that
chime
try to
in so
convert their
bad.
lovers to the faith, and yeah.
Well, it wasn't just that. And then they took me back in when they heard that he was abusive. and they wanted her to go to that school. They wanted my daughter to go to the choir, my daughter to go to the band, all this stuff. So they were very money hungry on a very young adult. And that is one of the many, many reasons why I turned away from the church. But the biggest reason is because my parents were part of the what is the name? The big guys in the Lutheran church. Anybody know the name?
No. I don't know
That's
much about
okay.
Lutherans.
Well, I'm here to
They
tell
weren't
you guys a
someone I
little
ran
bit about
into too much in Rhode Island.
a different faith. Who's the new face?
Hi,
Oh,
Hi.
hey Keith, how
I'm
you doing,
Keith.
buddy? You got
Hey,
cut out before. How's
yeah,
things,
I
man?
don't. I'm okay. I was just listening to her story.
Oh,
I
I
think
like to cut myself off. I'm sorry.
I think she's talking about the governing body.
No,
What was that?
She's
Are you
talking
talking
about
about the
the
governing body?
Lutheran. The Lutheran.
Does the Lutheran have like leaders like that?
They have
Yes, yes,
hierarchy, right?
yes. They do actually. They have different branches and different leaderships and different pastor levels. I'm part of, well, my family is part of the Wells Lutheran. I don't know if you guys know about the North Wells Lutheran whatever, but it's okay not to because they're not very impressive. Just to be
A
able to
lot of
kick me out
religions are
and pull me
cults.
back, it's like it is a cult, and it made me
If you
realize,
shun, especially shunning a 16-year-old just
yeah,
because they have a kid,
and not just that, my own parents
you
shunned
need
me
love.
too.
You need
So
love at point, not harsh punishment.
That's exactly
right,
right.
You already
we
have to
survived
pay
though.
for.
We're
You
here.
already have to pay for having a child. Like just from the laws of nature for having a child at a young age. You don't need
Oh,
to
that brings
have
me
dirt
back to the
rubbed in
whole
your
school
eye or
thing.
kick you while you're down.
Right, that brings me back to the whole school thing because I did drop out when I had her.
Yeah.
She had too
Well,
many
that's
runny
you went through
diapers or
something
too
a
many
little. You had a
upchucks.
child to take care of. Different
Right, so
situation.
I took the mom life. I was
Yeah.
doing it by myself, and there's a whole story behind that too. I won't bore you guys, but it was quite a life, and I didn't need school. I dropped out when I was 17, got my GED a week after I turned 18, so I went straight head first towards work because I had to provide. But who taught me how to do that? Nobody.
Right.
Myself taught me how to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
No
I
doubt.
wasn't prepared. And I just want to
Yeah, you're a
ask you
kid.
guys, how is it with that situation in your guys's?
It's the
Yeah.
absolute same. People are not
Yep.
this
Really?
Same
this
thing.
organization infantilizes people. You
Yep.
have grown people. There was a program on before, and there was a gentleman that was on. So the Watchtower has a world headquarters in New York, and it kind of moves around. And this gentleman was talking about how people will go there maybe in their teens, early 20s, and they'll be there for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and then they leave, and they don't know how to do anything because they've never lived in the real world. And this is what I call infantilization, and that's how it is in this organization. The average person that is raised in it is really not connected to the real world. They
Oh,
don't
not at all.
necessarily know how to pay bills. More importantly, they don't have people skills, communication skills. They don't have what we would call street smarts to know who they should be dealing with, who they shouldn't be dealing with. And that can really get you into some trouble, because people can pick up on the fact that, you're idealistic, you're not living in the real world, and you're easy prey for some of the worst people that are out there. And you'll hear horror story after horror story of people being used and abused because unfortunately they just didn't have the skill, that you needed. And this is done on purpose so that
Yeah.
once you leave the cult, they want you to go through pure D hell. I don't know what the D stands for, but pure D hell. And then you'll want to come back.
You
Now,
know what?
mm-hmm,
I'm only 30 years young, and
uh-huh.
it took me up until 3 months ago when I met this guy. I would not have understood what you just said, and I had to come back on mic to show Keeb. Well, I call him Keebs. It's a nickname
So,
for
Yeah,
him,
it's
but
my nickname.
it's
And I've
I
had that
show him
nickname.
that.
You guys don't know this, but I had Keebler as my nickname since I was a kid because of my last name, Kubler. Until this day, people still call me Keebler, like strangers, and I'm like Kubler.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
I like
I'm
the nicknames
making
you
his
gave me.
present right now.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yep.
But up until 3 months ago, I was so under a rock. I was so
Yeah.
naive. I was
Yeah.
so.
And that's by design. There
Yeah.
is
I'm getting
a
off camera now.
phrase, and this is all I'm going to say. There's a phrase out there about what I call prostitutes and pimps, right? Or pimps and hoes. And I'm not calling any woman a hoe. I'm just that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And what a pimp does is he always wants to keep a hoe broke and dumb, meaning uneducated. And this is what all these cults do. They always want to keep you uneducated because if you're educated, you'll realize you don't need them. You're doing all the work and they're
That
reaping all the benefits. We don't need you.
Yeah.
So we leave. Or you keep them broke. They don't have any
is
money,
that.
so you rely on this. And all cults use that same technique.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that.
Yeah, go ahead,
Um,
Is
Keith.
that like the
they
same
keep
mindset as addiction, though?
what?
Just let Keith's been waiting for a little bit. Just let him say
Oh, I'm
something
Well,
so
real quick.
sorry, dear.
no,
Yes, I
no,
just
it's
got
okay.
No,
I
you're
talking
just
on my
okay.
wanted
screen.
No. It's okay. I just try to moderate a little bit. Go ahead,
I
Keith.
just
Here.
wanted to say that they make you like a soldier in a way that there's only one worthwhile thing to do in your life, and that is to pioneer and get a part-time job as an electrician or a plumber or a some sort of thing that will benefit the cult, which is window washing, whatever. As long as you're doing low, hard work for almost nothing, they keep that. And then they also have the two-tier system, which keeps you thinking, boy, these people might be, they're anointed, they know, and they keep that illusion of that mystique that they're anointed and that have this thing. So that was programmed into us as kids, so that
Yeah.
you didn't question, and then when you do realize that they're just conning you, and you get kicked out for calling them out. Um, and for discovering what their real intentions are, which is just to exploit you,
Yeah.
um,
And
then you have to come to terms with that. And that's scary because, I don't have much of an education. All I knew was that the end was coming and I needed to just put the kingdom first and get as many hours as I could in. And I did. Like, I fell for it. So I think it's interesting when you come out of a situation like that and you realize that the real world, which has like infrastructure and there are people on oil rigs making sure your life is possible. There's a whole like interconnectedness that exists on the planet that Jehovah's Witnesses, they just live in this compound and they live in this isolated world where they think that higher mathematics and engineering are not really necessary when they're they're they would be nothing without the rest of the world and their so-called evil higher education and all the things that they condemn. They're so dependent on. So it's interesting for them, when you come out of that, you realize these guys they're so manipulative and they're just cowards and they lie and they don't care. You're
Wow.
stuck. You're stuck, at 30, 40 years old if you wake up from it and you're like, oh, I didn't plan for my future. I was just waiting for the end. And that's the hard part when you wake up is like, oh my God, like how do I
Slaves
function
for
in
nothing.
how do I
Yeah.
function in the real world? But it's different for everybody, I'm sure. But that's all I want to say.
I don't know why, but my grandparents, well, I do kind of know why. They were there for 1975 and really bought into that, and were like, my grandfather told me that they did a false prophecy that they messed up, but then he made excuses for it, you know. But my point being is that he left behind quite an inheritance for my family, which I won't benefit from, and my parents aren't going to have probably an inheritance. I could see them just spending it all. But they didn't buy in. I guess what I'm saying is to that the end is like here. They did plan for the future at least. You know, they had a lot of equity in their home, and they just were. They lived in a time period where if you made simple financial decisions that were good financial decisions, you could do something in this world. But being as a Jehovah's Witness, teaching that the end of the world is coming at 1975, it really messed a lot of people up. Some people never went to school. Some people
Yeah.
never had children. Some people messed their teeth up, like stopped taking care of themselves, thinking that the paradise was coming. I mean, that really did a number on people. And then when you ask Jehovah's Witnesses on forums like Quora why that happened, that never happened.
It's just, it's, yeah.
But
There was
it messed up a
something that
lot of
you said
kids.
that sparked my.
Go ahead, Emily.
No, it's okay. There's something. Squirrel. I forgot.
No,
I'm
it,
still
like,
nervous
No
to be
worries.
here. I'm
there's
sorry.
such a,
Something perked my interest about. Nope, not there. I'm just gonna mute myself. I'm sorry.
no, you're
Oh no, you're
good.
good. Just chime back in if you remember. But
Oh,
Yeah.
hey,
I
if
will.
someone wants to take over for a second, I gotta use the restroom. Sorry.
I was going to just say, like,
Go
when I
ahead,
was,
Keith.
when I was a kid, and JP, like, there was this impending feeling that the end was going to come, and that's what they programmed us, like.
Oh,
And so your only purpose in life and your only worldview was us and them. We're right, everyone else is wrong. um and you did feel genuine significant guilt and shame if you ever stepped out of line, if you celebrated a birthday or Christmas or anything outside of the rules, which were there's just a never ending rules that they put on us. You felt guilty, and your family and everybody made sure you kept in line. And just breaking those rules for the first time, like when you look on an apostate website, you're trembling because it's such a to
it's what
challenge to
it's. I'm so
challenge.
sorry to just add on. It's what
Yeah,
we call of the fear of God,
yeah,
as Christians, Lutherans, whatever you want to call the
right,
path that I've lived. And that was just to add on to what you were saying already. And
yeah,
I do remember what I was going to say now that I took a breath.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to talk about the millennial turnover. Do you guys remember the 2000 and how it was going to end? Everything was just going to stop.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
the whole
I remember
it was
being
it was the whole Y2K thing.
Mm-hmm.
see, I don't know much about it. I never follow media, never have. I lived under a rock, and I'm not kidding when I say it. But the millennia rolled over when I was a little tweet tot, and I remember being in gymnastics and almost being pulled out of my millennia 2000s gymnastics performance because my parents were convinced that the world was going to end. I also, on that note, got pulled out of science class in high school. Anybody else?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I did at times. What you're talking about, like for the millennium, like Y2K thing, was that when you're a Jehovah's Witness and your parents were witnesses?
I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I'm an
She's not a Jehovah's
ex-Lutheran.
Witness, dude. She's the ex-Lutheran.
I'm the rando that will pop up and once in a while
Oh,
give
okay.
a third opinion. I'm so sorry.
oh,
Everyone's invited
welcome.
here, man.
But your parents were worried about the Y2K thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
whole church was.
The whole church, really? Wow, I didn't know that. Jehovah's Witnesses
Well,
didn't buy into that because they come up with their
yeah.
own shit to make fun of,
Uh,
or no,
the whole
sorry, to false prophesy.
one part of the Y2K thing. I'm an IT
Yeah, go ahead,
person.
Stefan.
I'm an IT person. It's the only thing I know. And from an IT perspective, what we were worried about is whether or not the software developers who write software, especially important software that runs devices, the software that's on computers, that is on airplanes, or even in the control rooms. What nobody really knew is whether or not the people who wrote that software ever envisioned that software clock going past 2K, and what was going to happen when that clock had to roll over. So from a tech or scientific, if you will, technological standpoint, that was one of the things that people were worried about. Not so much the world coming to an end, but what is this equipment going to do? Is the equipment that's running an airplane all of a sudden going to malfunction because it can't figure out what time it is? That kind of thing. So
Thank you.
that was a lot of it. I don't necessarily didn't necessarily view it so much as the world is going to come to an end, but we don't know what's going to start malfunctioning just because the software doesn't know what to do. So that was a part
Yeah,
of that.
they had such anticipation because the whole 1914 thing and everything, and there was always this push to get out there and save everyone, and that's dying now. I don't think the ministry will ever be what it once was. Jehovah's Witnesses are significantly changing their strategy because they know the people are up. They see what they're doing. Their record speaks for itself. So it's that urgency that they're trying to create in people. I don't think they'll ever be able to create that again. People are, not really like like I don't know about you guys, but seeing people now in the ministry, like when I was a kid, you went out with a Bible. They don't even do that. So
Mm.
there's just this total no conviction. It's just jw.org, and they're not there's no substance to what I mean. We used to really dig into the scriptures, and then Ray or Fred Franz and all of his whatever, they would make up some deep kind of thing that you thought had intellectual something, and it was nonsense. It was all nonsense, and now they can't
Like,
they can't
it keep-
they can't
we
sustain.
we used to believe we were all Bible scholars.
Yeah.
I know we
So
did.
did my
They
friends.
used to. Well, they taught us that we were all like, what do you call
Hmm.
it? Like ministers.
Yeah.
What a
What's
bunch of
Yeah.
crap. We
We
don't
didn't
know
know anything.
anything about the Bible. We didn't
I
know
know.
shit.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny, you guys, because the Lutherans over here, we just preach and preach and preach and preach and preach and hope that it sticks. It never stuck over here, but I have met one other Jehovah's
She's
Witness
from
that,
Minnesota.
oh yeah, you betcha.
Uh,
Uh, don't you know? One other Jehovah's Witness that it got out of it as well, and she and I compared stories, and Keebs, you and I will have to do it too more, but the main thing was what you guys were just talking about. It just went along with, and I'm so nervous. Keeps what we're talking
No,
about.
you're fine, honey.
it's been great.
Um, but the Lutheran Church is no different. It is no different. I don't know how the Catholicism works. I don't know how the Baptist works. It's just the Lutheran over here. But I just wanted to chime in and say that a lot of this is the same.
That's cool. That's good to know. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know anything about them. Go ahead, Stephen.
it's all the same. One of the things when I
Yeah.
left the Jehovah's Witnesses in excess of 7 years ago, the first I'm a very logical person. The first question that I had in my mind is how did I get into this mess in the first place, right? And of course, I was a born in. My parents rather became witnesses when I was about 3 years of age. My dad lasted a
All right.
nanosecond. The one in the parents who raised me, because I was a product of adoption, I didn't find that out until I was in my mid 40s. So that's a whole nother story. But the parents that raised me, that
Jeez.
the mom, she stayed a witness all the way until she passed. The point that I'm making is that answered the question of how I got in the first place. Then the second question was, I consider myself a relatively intelligent and reasonable person. How did I not see through this all these years? So that was the next question that I wanted to get an answer to. So I started studying cults. I knew the history of the Jehovah's organization, but what I started studying was cults. How do cults operate? And that's why I brought up that Joe Rogan, not Joe Rogan, but Sean Ryan,
No.
uh,
Yeah.
so you can understand how cults work. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're just one of many cults. But how do they work? How do they exercise so much control in the lives of people? People are willing to kill for these cults. People are willing to die for these cults. They're willing to kidnap their own kids. They're willing to do any and everything for these cults. How do these cults exercise so much power? So I really started studying that. And the point that I'm bringing to bring it full circle is what you will learn is all cults pull from the same playbook. So if I'm going to use a football analogy, you know how your head coach and the various coaches, they have a playbook that all the plays are in. Well, these cults all have a playbook, and they all pull from that same playbook. So you will see the same plays or the same tactics over and over in all of these cults. One cult might emphasize a certain thing a little bit more than the next, but both of them are still using it. And you'll see that in all these cults. And keep in mind,
Yep.
cults are not just one thing, because you can have political cults like the cult of Trump. You can have sex cults like that NVIM, the Nexium cult. You can have political cults, sex cults. You can also have religious cults, obviously. And then the most common cult that nobody thinks of when they think about cult, and this is
Hollywood.
the most common cult. Nope, it's the one-on-one domestic relationship, whether it's
True.
prostitutes and pimps, or it's an abusive husband and wife in a domestic situation, or an abusive wife to the husband. That is actually the most common code. But you will find in all those groups, they all apply the same techniques. It's just they give one technique a little bit more emphasis than the other, but they all pull from the same playbook.
So, on that, having the whatever version of the most popular book out there in our hands the entire childhood, that book, I believe, when I started looking at other religions and I started reaching out to other people, and I started meeting people like Eric here, I started asking questions. I felt like a dum dum. I felt so naive and so stupid that I didn't know this already. This is, I didn't know it was a cult. I didn't know it was kind of a bad thing to be in. I just kind of was raised in it, whatever.
You don't know any better. That's
You
all you
didn't
know.
know any better. It
Yeah.
was just there. It was second nature.
Yeah,
And
good way of saying it. Second nature. Yep.
yeah, and the second nature gets built into you, the whole abuse thing. That's why I brought up drug abuse earlier. Um, it is tied together, but the book is what I was getting at. It is all, in my mind, just statements. Why do we need to know who said it when?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I believe that they're all like what is that? Inspirational quotes or something throughout the years that are written into a book. I don't know that there was ever a burning bush. I don't know that there was ever a guy on a cross. I don't know that, but I do know that if
Fair
there's
enough, because
something
we weren't there. We weren't there for it, and man has
exactly.
like abused the Bible a lot too. I don't know how much I believe in it anymore. I do believe in it still, but not 100% at all. Not
There are
and
certain key things that I do pick up and I do still firmly morals, we'll call them.
there's some historical things that seem to have happened, and I mean we can't just reject history. But
No.
some of the tales, I think a lot of us here all think that it doesn't seem very logical to have all those animals on a boat with all the feces piling up
Just dump it in the
to the
lake.
rooftops. Um,
I thought about that as a kid actually. The stories that we were taught and the Bible verses that we had to learn, we had to recite every day, at least one or two or a hymn or something. And it got to the point where it was just memorization. It wasn't
so
memorizing God's
they
word.
do songs and indoctrination too. You memorize things to learn it to beat it into your head.
It's a chant.
Yeah,
It's kind of
same thing with
strange
us.
when you think about the fact that the Bible really hasn't been available to general population for very long. Like
Why?
most of the true history of mankind
It's one
was
here.
oral. It was passed down from, and then like there, we don't have an accurate representation of like where everything that happened. So it's just kind of like I don't know. When I think about how many people didn't know how to read like 600 or 700 years ago, or how uneducated most people. I mean, when the Protestants came around, that was a big deal. Like they came and they're like, no more. We got to get the Bible translated and make sure that people have access, common people have access to it, and that's a relatively new development in human history. So it's I don't know, like all the people that just say, well, the Bible is like sola scriptura, and I went really hard with the Bible after I left Jehovah's Witnesses. And the more I read it, I'm just like, nobody knows. Like, nobody really knows. They're all pretending that they have this inside track,
Right.
and it's
My-
I say
pretend.
you read the Bible to yourself if that's what you want to do, and just keep your own opinion to yourself about it.
I
Yeah,
What gets so annoying is someone saying it says this, like, dude,
yeah,
because I don't trust the Apostle Paul personally. I
Me
don't
either.
trust him.
I hate him.
I feel
I
like he
hate him.
infiltrated the Bible. You know, that's just my personal feeling, and then Christians get mad at me. But I think the Apostle Paul is a jerk with women.
Yep.
He
Yep.
he his Bible verse has been the worst for shunning and disfellowshipping amongst religions.
Exactly.
I just don't trust Paul, and he murdered Christians before he converted to
Hmm.
Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That's the
like,
thing
why is
about
this
it.
guy getting praised? Like,
Right.
you know, like,
The misogyny that exists in these Christian religions and denominations all the way up to the present
yeah,
all comes from Paul. And Paul was
yeah.
an individual, if he even existed, but Paul was an individual that never even met Jesus.
He never met
He
Jesus,
never
and
was
the
a
Jehovah's
disciple.
Witnesses say that he did, because
No.
I have this debate with them on Quora, and they keep saying to me that he was, and then I had other people, Christians, come up and say, "Nah, that's not true at all," and they gave some verses that were
Yeah.
more educated than me on it and put them in their place. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they
No,
have no idea what
he
they're
never
talking about.
even met Jesus, didn't know what he looked
Nope,
like, didn't know,
nope.
and he couldn't therefore be sure of what his teachings were because he wasn't there to be an eyewitness to him. He
Which
would have
makes
been
me
getting
doubt
this
that
from
he
other
was
people.
anointed by Jesus if Jesus didn't see him. You
Well,
know?
see, that's the thing about it. You just raised a really interesting point because there's 12 apostles, right? So
Hmm.
one turned, so-called Judas, he turned and he left. And then the person that replaced Judas was actually Barnabas. So I've never
Yes.
understood why we say Apostle Paul.
Yep.
There
You
was
know
only
what?
12, there was only 12 apostles,
There was only
and
12. He's
Paul
not the
was
OG.
not the replacement to Judas. It was Barnabas. So I don't know
Yeah.
how he's even, but anyway, whoever and whatever, he never even met Jesus. But yeah, he is the one who seems to shape Christianity more than any other individual. And to your point earlier, the misogyny that's in religion to this day, that sit down and shut up and just talk to your husband, you're not allowed to teach, all of that comes from Paul.
Yeah.
Can I just point one thing out, you guys?
Go ahead, Emily.
I love this entirely too much. You guys know more about the religion I grew up with than I remember from my entire upbringing. And I just find that humorous because it's amazing the things that get stuck in your brain, right?
Right.
And now losing my functionability and my cognitive whatever, it's becoming more enthusiastic almost to dig in people's brains to view other people's opinions. And I grew up on opinions are like buttholes, everyone has one and they all stink. So getting these other opinions is just beautiful. I had to say that. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. Don't be sorry. See that when Emily says I'm sorry, and I do the same thing too, and actually, so does Anne Marie and a lot of other people. That's part of the religious abuse that we went through, because we were whatever cult that you were grown up in. There's always these rules, and when you break them, you you always like have to be sorry. Like, my dad got mad at me for saying "oh geesh," like geez or geesh, something like
My
that at
favorite.
funeral, and he told me it's short for Jesus. You know, it's like we all have these ticks from it.
Right.
yes.
But yeah, thanks, Emily. You
Yeah,
don't have to be
absolutely.
sorry.
My
Cheers.
Hey,
favorite is shame on you, by the way.
hey,
Yeah.
Emily, earlier in the conversation, I
Yeah.
feel like you brought up a question or a topic or something with the word addiction, and then we started
Mm.
talking about something totally
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
I wanted to get back to see if there was something that you were asking about that. Not that I'm an addiction expert, but
No, absolutely. So I would love to bring it back to that. You guys had mentioned something when I brought it up the first time about like preaching this to get you to think this way, preaching this to get you to think this way, and then it's like a drug almost is what I thought of it as. Don't know why I said it, don't know how I said it, but I do believing in one faith, one religion is almost like a drug. It can be related to addiction if you think about it. It can be related to the steps of
That's a good
healing
point.
if you think about it. Like, if you really think about rehab, yeah, they have the Bible in there. Yeah, they have hymnals in there and stuff like that. And they teach you all that. But what they're really teaching you is morals. And what they're really teaching you is that you don't need this high, this praise, this feeling, this whatever to get to the end. I have found this statement within the past year that my life has just gone crumbling down, and it's been fun. But I found this statement, and it's I'm here for a fun time, not a long time, because unfortunately it's true. But in the same breath, everybody's here for a fun time, not a long time. So why take yourself so seriously? And not to be
That
the
is a good
Joker with
point.
the green hair, but I don't take really much seriously anymore after being that perfect ballerina growing up. It's just hard to fathom the fact that there are so many more out there like me. Thank you guys.
No,
Yeah,
thank you,
yeah,
Anna.
yeah. I thought you were talking about literal drug addiction because something that was I don't know why this got into my head. And I don't know why. I think I must have saw something on TV, but this is the weird stuff that I think about. So I was wondering. I was thinking about like the drug, not the drug program, but the Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And I've read a number of times.
Yeah.
Oh, I know why, because I have a book on that. And they were talking about a person who had gone through Alcoholics Anonymous, but he was saying you go there to try to get some understanding of your addiction to alcohol, and what they're teaching you is religion. They're teaching you Jesus. And the guy said it's like I'm trading one drug for another one, right?
Ooh.
And then I was thinking people, and we've probably all seen this on TV shows or you've seen it in real life, and maybe a person has a drug habit, right? And so they go to a clinic, and the clinic takes their drug of choice and replaces it with, methadone, for example. And I was thinking to myself, well, isn't that just going from one drug, to another? Is that really addressing the issue? This is where I thought you were going, Emily.
That is where I was going. Thank you.
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
That is actually exactly where I was going with that, because it
right,
is the replacement. It is you need to take the edge off somehow. It is a new habit to form.
right.
Anything that gives you dopamine can be a drug
Haha.
that you're addicted to. My mother is addicted to the dopamine that she gets off of socializing. She can't stop. She's on the phone all the time. She's
Hmm.
always at party events.
Hmm.
She is the last one to leave the Kingdom Hall at church. She, I don't know, she just can't shut the F up.
Am I
My
your
poor
mom?
father, he's an introvert, and she just has to be. It's an unhealthy balance. She's just always has to be around people. And you know what? When she's not around people, she's actually kind of miserable to be around. Doesn't have much to say, and it's just like, ugh, you're draining. Like she
Right,
can't go on a vacation in Vermont with just her family. She has to be with like a ton of people. But I
right.
could, as long as my family are all doing something, I'll go in the woods for hours, start a fire, and just chill.
Yeah.
Like I don't need anybody around me.
I've
Not,
noticed
not saying it's
that.
a bad thing, but there's a balance
Right.
with it all, you know.
There's
And
a
my mother
balance
had
with
no
it all.
balance. That was her drug. So
Yeah.
she would get mad at me for my drug addiction, if you want to call it that, but it's not. It's marijuana, but cannabis. But like she gets mad at me for that. But it's like, well, you're a drug addict too, and I'm not really on an unhealthy drug. I'm on more of a medication. It's recognized to be medicine.
Yeah.
How she's the one that make, gave me the childhood that needs it.
Well, what's
And
interesting.
my father was a pothead too. He got disfellowship for it. He had three strikes and you're out deal,
Right.
and he I told the story before, but he found 90 pounds of Colombian marijuana and smoked it for 6 years.
Wow.
Lived a double life, and then I'm the one that busted him.
Wow.
I
Well,
was like
just
6 years
gonna say,
old, and I unplugged his flashlight, and the bag came out, and my mother mother had a connection fit.
So, side note, don't know, I kind of heard that, but it's funny that you guys say the shunning, the disown membership, whatever, because my mother is a raging, yep, but she follows the church. She is in the church. She is a member of the church. Yada yada yada. She has been married twice. She has had kids with two guys. She has shunned me for having one child out of wedlock as a teenager. And it's refreshing to hear that I'm, again, not
It's the
alone.
same thing here. Yeah, our
It
parents are
is.
all hypocrites.
Aren't they great?
well,
Uh,
see, one of the things that happen. There's two things that stand out about this. But one of the things that happens is that when you join whatever religion or cult of your choice, it's all it all the objective then becomes to stay in the good graces of that cult. And that cult, they can excuse or kind of minimize whatever it is that you're doing as long as you stay in the cult. I mean, you'll have people who are not religious or not in a specific religion or anything like that, and there's certain things that they just would never do. They would never consider doing. They're not going to steal. They're not going to cheat on their wives and cheat on their husbands and cheat on their taxes, and they're just not going to do that. And then you'll have other people in religions and they can do that and they can excuse it because the religion will make up some kind of an excuse. Or all you have to do is X number of Hail Marys, or if you're a Jehovah Witness, you just sit in the back for 3 months or 6 months and then you're right back in. And so you begin to understand it's really not even about making yourself a better person. It's not even
I've
about
never seen
pride.
anyone come back in 3 months.
Oh yeah, I've seen people have sex and come back in 3 months.
What part of the country are you in? I don't even know
Chicago,
that stuff.
north side
Chicago?
Chicago, north suburbs.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Man, not the Northeast. They're hardcore.
But
In fact, you know
the point
what?
that
You know
I'm
what,
making,
Stefan?
hmm
We used to ask each other why it's so much more hardcore in New England than it is everywhere else. We didn't know about Chicago, but we all knew about Florida, and we knew that, and I knew about Texas personally, and
okay,
we all knew that like they almost like the elders like didn't want to disfellowship you. They gave you chances up beyond chances. Desiree told me a story of a guy where he was in the room like 12 times. They wouldn't disfellowship him. And finally, he's like, listen, I don't even want to do this anymore. But yeah,
yeah, it's
what we
regional.
came up
You,
with, what we
it's
came up with
regional,
is the closer that you get to Bethel, New York, the more strict it is, and it actually makes sense. I'd say the more demonic it is, the more bad influence that's spread from that organization, from the
right?
headquarters to all the people that live around the area. I think that
Yeah,
it's a stronger influence
right.
compared to say down south, maybe Chicago. Even that's Chicago's got tons of problems.
Yeah, it's regional, Eric. I noticed that. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was a born in, so when I got to be a teenager, I started meeting other witness teenagers from different states, and they'd say, "Hey, come down and hang out," and you'd go down there, and you just find out, that they'd start telling you about what's really going on, and things are just different. California was different than Chicago. Chicago was different than Minnesota and Wisconsin, and Indiana was different. And it's just all different, man.
Mm.
It's
I
just
have a
all different.
question on where you're going with that. So,
Yeah.
with the people that follow the religion, not saying I do, don't, inside, outside, upside down, but the people that follow the religion, how do they know what holds them to the religion? Because you don't know, you're taking a gamble, and I don't gamble. I just
Mhm.
straight up don't gamble. You're taking a gamble on the rest of your existence beyond what we're at right now, on if
Right,
you're going up or down.
right.
It's on the hope of living forever. That's the
I don't want to live
and,
for.
and seeing your dead loved ones resurrected. That's what they sell to people.
Yeah.
I,
That's what Jehovah's Witnesses sell to people. I
It's a
don't know.
classic.
Lutherans
It's
sell heaven and hell. I think, right? Do they
yeah.
believe in
right.
the
It's a
hell
carrot stick
doctrine?
kind
Yeah,
of a
carrot
thing.
stick. Yeah,
Yeah.
amen
What
to
do you
that
mean
piece.
carrot stick?
Well, you
Go ahead,
hold
explain.
this thing in front of them, and then you place contingencies on it. Well, you better do this. You better do what I tell you. Uh, and there's this conditional sense of like you'll get saved if you remain in the group and do what we do, and
Right.
Right. Yeah.
that's
Like
the
follow the Ten
feeling.
Commandments
The
or
carrot and the stick too is an analogy of like the donkey. So you're riding a donkey and the carrot's in front, and you beat it with the stick while it's
Right.
moving forward. It's chasing after the carrot as well.
I
So it's
see.
like
I
that's what
see.
religion does to the people.
That makes sense.
There's an acronym that you'll hear in our community all the time, and it's FOG. F is in Frank, OG, and it stands for fear, obligation, and guilt.
Yep.
And so a lot of people stay in this organization and probably other organizations because of fear, obligation, and
Yep.
guilt. Once you
Amen to that.
accept the tenets of the religion, like you said, if you're good, you're going to go someplace good. If you're bad, you're going to suffer. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in a hell, they just believe in an everlasting destruction. Then you'll feel guilty because you should have done more or you shouldn't have done this, and they really play on the psychological impact of making you feel guilty.
They do.
And then you feel obligated. You have to do this. You must do this. Why didn't I do this? And you'll hear people say, oh, I know God is upset with me because I didn't get up and go out in the ministry today. God is mad at me because I didn't go to the meeting today. That's the obligation part. So there's some deep psychological tactics that are going on that are being preyed upon people who have no idea that these psychological games are being played upon them.
Yep.
And this is why I strongly
Yeah.
recommend anybody, if they make it out of a cult, whatever cult it is, take a step back and really analyze cults. Go study. I mean, people have made this so easy to understand cults nowadays. There's a guy named Stephen Hassan or Hassan, and he makes like a 10-point bullet system that you can judge an organization by to see if they're a cult, to see if this is an organization you really should take a look at in order to get out of it or maybe help somebody else get out of it. Um, because once you understand cults, then that fear, obligation, and guilt goes away. You're no longer afraid. You don't know. You no longer feel obligated. You no longer feel guilt. You realize you've just been manipulated by some cult or by some religion. So people really have to do some work on their own to free themselves, and the resources are out there. They're free. Even
Sorry, I
if you
got
want
kicked
to
out.
talk to somebody, kind of like what we're doing now, this is free, as far as I know. And then you have therapists and things that are out there, and then you have people who specialize in deculting or deprogramming a person. But it's really important for people to understand that what there's everything is a cult. Religions are cults, political systems are cults, sex systems are all of this stuff is cults. And you really have to know that they exist, and you have to know that how they operate so you can get out of it, and more importantly, not get out of one cult just to go into another one.
Right. So there's something that I like to say. I just want to throw in a happy little ha ha. Uh, Instead of following religion now, I follow a firm statement of peace, love, and marijuana.
Amen to
That is my statement of
that.
life now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
JP,
Yeah,
JP can attest to that.
uh, I think I'm the same way, but I also think that I do want to, because one of the things that I liked when you asked the question, what makes these people stay in it? One of the things that makes them stay in it is a sense of community, right?
Yeah.
And so people can kind of come together. They think they have like views. They really
Wow.
don't. The views are superimposed on them. But in any event, once you step out of the cult, then you have to kind of build your community. Then you also want to do something that helps, humanity. Maybe go and volunteer. I had signed up for Habitat for Humanity. COVID hit and I never got back to it. But, there's ways that we can contribute. And that's how you can fulfill those needs to just kind of do something that benefits mankind, in general. So all those things, community, humanitarian, these are a lot of the things that these cults satisfy, but you can satisfy those same needs without being a part of a cult.
And I hate to say it, but amen, praise Jeebus. Hallelujah. Yeah, you're right. You are completely right. And I can't, my jaw doesn't drop very much, and I'm not usually speechless, but I just had to say I'm speechless.
Yeah, I went to we had our office company party this past Thursday, and when I left there, which is probably around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I was waiting for my car, and there was a gentleman not too far away, and he was, he's a homeless gentleman, but he just looked really young, and I just walked over and I started talking to him, and he was so surprised because nobody else interacted. But I remember seeing on a documentary that there was a homeless gentleman. He said one of the hardest things that he has to deal with is that people just completely and entirely make him feel like he doesn't exist. If he's
Mm.
walking down the street, they don't look at him. If he speaks to them, they don't speak back. They don't make eye contact. It's like you don't even exist. And so that's always stayed in the back of my mind. So I walk to the corner anyway, and I start talking to the guy, and he is in fact, a young kid. And I just spent almost 20 something dollars on pastries to bring home. And I said, hey, look, and it's about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I said, hey, look, are you hungry? And he said, I could eat. And I just reached in my bag and I, gave him something. And, I wished him well and stay, as much as I could do. I didn't have any money on me. And then I walked away. But these are the kinds of things that we could do. Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't mean to rant, and Eric, stop me if I'm taking too long. But Jehovah's
No, no,
Witnesses,
you're good, brother.
they
My
preach a
show is
good,
about the audience, like coming in and talking
yeah.
too. I do my introduction in the beginning, but then it's about you guys. So go ahead, buddy.
Well, but I'm going to be very brief. But Jehovah's Witnesses preach a good game of going out, knocking on people's doors, talking about Jesus and all the rest of that. Then they put their stuff back in the car and then they drive home, and that's about the end of their Christianity or their charity. They do nothing that helps anybody. They don't
Nope.
operate a clinic. They don't operate a hospital. They don't operate a school. They don't operate a soup kitchen. If you're in need of
No,
some
no
place to
feeding of the
stay,
poor, no
no
clothing,
feeding of the
nothing.
poor. They do none of that. And year after year after year, do none of that. They take in millions of dollars as a charitable organization from governments all around the world,
When
and
they're
they don't do
non-charitable.
one single thing that's charitable. And so I had to deprogram myself, from that. And I'm a little busy with life, but I can't wait for things to calm down where I can find something that I can volunteer to that just gives somebody a helping hand to do something for somebody, because for all my whole life I did nothing. And I and
When
I
Right.
when Desiree and I were labeled as apostates, we needed help with our food, and there was a food bank at a church.
yep.
And inside and I'll be honest with you, back this was pre-COVID, and back then, like, the food was really good, like pretty decent, produce and everything. But
Mm,
anyways, there was a pamphlet in there, and that's what was interesting. And well, let me back up. First of all, the preacher was really cool. Even though he believed in heaven and hell, he didn't push it much. He just said, just accept Christ as your Lord, and you'll make paradise. And he said, don't thank me for the food, thank God. And I like that about him. But what was cool was there was a pamphlet, and it said, "Are you escaping LDS, Scientology, Jehovah's Witnesses? Come find shelter, healing, and prayer at our church." My wife and I died. And we're like, what?
yeah.
We couldn't believe it. We were just waking up, like, realizing all the abuse that we had gone through. We were just labeled apostates. I had just started watching Lloyd Evans and accepting that we were in a cult. When I saw that, all these things, these little gestures in life, they kept adding up, that I don't need to waste my time anymore in something that I've already have, and
Yep.
you just move on.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that was what woke me up. One of the biggest things is just you realize how little you've done for, like, the group that you belong to is so I mean, they're so arrogant and snooty and self-righteous and just
Mhm.
demeaning of the entire human race. The reality is that they teach you to hate the entire, just to take away your humanity from yourself. So
mm,
you learn to, as a child, to have a form of prejudice and a form of, like, we're the chosen ones, that we're God's people. That whole paradigm is so toxic, and it,
Yep.
it
So
takes it takes away your compassion and empathy and just genuine just caring about people. There's
Yeah.
just this nope. Are you part of our group? Well, maybe I can't talk to you unless I can't, do anything with you unless you agree with our group.
Yeah.
So
The
that's
older
very
generations
difficult.
seem to buy into it more.
Yeah.
So
But
with
yeah,
that being said,
as far as Jehovah's Witnesses doing anything for anyone, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
Oh, they do
I
nothing.
agree.
We had a woman in our the last Kingdom Hall that I attended. She had she had a bunch of kids. I think probably about 7 or 8. I think 2 of them were mostly grown. But in any event, she found herself in a situation and she was having to stay in a homeless shelter. I don't know how long she stayed there until I asked somebody, because I just kind of saw her and she was always kind of a heavy set person. She had lost a ton of weight, but the kids just looked unkempt. Their hair wasn't, cut. They were normally, pretty dapper, but the hair wasn't cut. They were kind of wearing mixed match hand me down clothes. You could just tell somebody's got on shoes 3, 4 sizes too big and barely keep their feet in them. And I asked somebody, what's going on with this person? And they said, well, they rent a house and they went from the house to the apartment, then they lost the apartment, and they had heard that they were in a shelter. Well, how do you go to a Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses with 100 people here and somebody winds up at a shelter? And their kids are in a shelter. Anybody could be doing something to the young daughter. Anybody could be doing something to the young males, I guess, for that matter. But how does this happen? How is it that you don't have a policy in place that says, hey, no, we're going to help you until you get back on your feet? Where here, my house is not that big, but let me have 2 of the kids, sister and brother, so and so. They'll take 2 kids. You come stay with us and make sure that everybody's good until you kind of get back on your feet. We don't have any of that, but we can sit ourselves down and pat ourselves on the back and say we're such great Christians. It's like, what part of Christianity, which is giving and helping people, do you not understand? We were nothing more than the Sadducees and the Pharisees in the Bible who did nothing for nobody. That's all we were.
Yeah.
one thing I really want to say is the greed. The greed behind the churches is just awful in the Lutheran world, anyways. But it is so bad where they took the children of the church community and they threw them at the elders in the homes. And that's why I hate Christmas. But one little memory I had that I wanted to throw in was growing up. I was around people like you guys were just explaining the ruthlessness of the Christianity and needing to do it, needing to be one way, the certain way. I saw that growing up, and I aspired my entire life to be something different. I am now free at the age of 30. I am more kind than I have ever been in my life. I've always strove to be something different. And now I'm talking to a bunch of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, I'm just flabbergasted that life led me here, to this moment, to this feeling,
With
to
your
all.
devilish dyed hair and
How dare you?
terrible.
I love
You
my hair,
cannot be
okay?
a Jehovah's Witness.
They actually, when I started dyeing my hair, they're the most judgmental people out
Yeah,
there.
they are.
The world of the non-judgmental, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. How do you get
It-
past that?
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
But even with that, if you go back and you look at how Jesus, and I'm just referencing the Bible because it's the only quote unquote holy book that I know. I'm not saying I believe this, but if you go back and you look at Jesus, Jesus talked to everybody. It didn't matter whether they were Jew or Gentile, male or female. Even that they used to tell a story that they found out later never was in the Bible, so they took it out. But there was a story about a woman, and she had committed adultery. And I'm going to show you what a sexist organization, Christianity is. They never say
Cast the first
anything
stone.
about the male that she was committing adultery with, but she was the
No
female.
doubt. Never
They
thought of that.
never say
Yeah.
anything about the male. He's not even brought up. But they bring the
Yeah.
female because, according to Jewish law, a woman caught in the act of adultery can be stoned to death. She can be
Stoned to
killed.
death.
So
And
before
then
they
Jesus
do,
said, those without sin cast the first stone.
those without sin cast the first stone, and
then it
it's
shut
like,
them up.
yeah, and it shut them up. And so the whole point that I'm making is this is how humankind is. We're so judgmental of other people.
Yeah.
That's all we spend our time doing is comparing ourselves to another person, and they aren't as this as we are, and we're the only ones, and everybody else in the Watchtower world, they call non-witnesses worldly. You're a worldly
Yeah,
person.
like you're worldly, Emily, to Jehovah's Witnesses because you're a non-Jehovah's Witness.
Is
Yeah,
that a good thing or a
you know,
bad thing?
they consider that
Um,
they consider that a
it's a
terrible
good thing
place
for
to call
you,
the world.
but
It's
but to
awesome.
them, it's a negative thing.
Good job.
Yeah, to them it's a negative thing.
Guys.
Yeah,
Now, the
good
real
job.
definition of a person that's worldly is a person that's urbane. That actually means a person that's educated and well traveled and
Yeah,
has.
exactly. I
It's
know. Isn't it
actually a
funny
good
that
thing.
they? Yeah,
But they
yeah,
take that and they redefine that word, and everybody that's a non-witness is
Oh yeah.
worldly. And so this is the level of judgmentalism that they have. But when you actually go and you read the scriptures, when you're judgmental like that, you're in trouble.
man, you're on
Because
fire
Jesus,
tonight, Stefan.
am I? Uh-oh.
Yeah, you
Uh-oh.
got good comments. You got good
Uh-oh.
comments tonight, man. You always do,
Yeah.
but like you're on fire.
Yes, we're
And
really enjoying your comment.
oh boy.
Oh, sorry.
And the last thing I'll say about that, if you guys remember, there was this prayer that was mentioned in the Bible. It was a Pharisee or a Sadducee or somebody,
Yeah.
and he was praying, and he says, "Oh Lord,
So glad I'm not a woman.
yeah, oh Lord, I'm glad that I'm not like this tax collector over here, this sinner." This is how he's praying to God. And so the point is that we should never be judgmental like this. But I find that the Jehovah's Witnesses are extremely judgmental, extremely. And that was one of the things that I realized once I stopped going, that I'm a part of humanity. I was never a part of humanity, Emily. I was a part of this special little group of 8 million people supposedly, and we were the only ones. Nobody else basically mattered. They were all walking dead like zombies, because when Armageddon gets here, they're all going to be dead. So once I left the organization, I became a member of the human society for the first time ever in my life, and I loved it. And I said to myself, I will view everybody as my brother and as my sister, which, by the way, is what Jesus said to do.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But these cults, the first thing they do is they make it an us versus them thing.
Why does it always have to be good and evil? Why can't it just be peace?
Yeah, I
Exactly.
agree.
Yep.
That's a very old question.
Is it? Because I just
Yeah.
found out that question is real.
Does that go back to John Lennon? Well,
Well, I
further
mean,
than that, but
it's like,
isn't that an Imagine?
I mean, this happens in all sectors of society where people get power. Power becomes intoxicating, and they turn off their sense of equality, and they don't mind exploiting people. I mean, it's
It's like a snowball
slavery.
effect.
Slavery is a very alive and well today. So you have groups of men that are willing to cast aside any, like the Mormon guys. They're like, oh, we're the prophets and Jehovah's Witnesses. We're anointed, and the Pope, he's like, I'm the vicar of Christ and all that. So there's that hierarchical. Sorry.
No, you're good. I love that. You use so many big words.
Whatever. The point that I'm saying is that it creates that division. I mean, religion does that. Religion creates, it's all about how good the building looks and how who's right
It's all
and
about
who's
the
wrong, and
picture perfect.
it's so irritating.
It is. We had to go to church every Sunday with the church clothes, is what we called them. We
Mhm.
couldn't wear them outside. We couldn't wear them anywhere else but church.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
would look all nice and dandy for what? To fall asleep in the pew?
Yeah. It's all about image. All about
It
image.
is.
Yeah.
And that's why I have green hair and I'm missing a tooth.
All about image. And this is
By the way, I got a friend on here. Just a little side point. Bob Roberts. That's Brad from Australia. But in the comment section, he's known as Bob Roberts. But he just got downloaded Black Ops 6. So maybe how I met Emily was through Call of Duty, through like PlayStation Online. But
oh
Through
neat.
my boyfriend even.
so we'll add one. We got a group of a crew of people, Brad. So we'll add you to the list.
Most definitely. Hi, Brad. Hi, Bob.
Isn't it cool to meet people all around the world? We have
It's
we have people
beautiful.
that call from Japan on here, and like I haven't seen Tad in a little while. But where else do we have? We have England, a few people from Australia. I haven't heard from Calvin lately, but Tim T too, from Australia. But yeah, we got a good group of people on here.
I thought I was nervous
What's
before.
her name from Sweden? Grace from Sweden. This is a big
Woman,
group of people.
woman,
What the
woman,
woman?
woman.
Hey, she can be happy she's listening to the show tonight. There's a woman on the show.
There's a
There's a woman.
woman.
I am sick of seeing
Let
only men. No
let
Oh
offense,
my
the
Grace, if
goodness.
you're
woman
listening.
talk. Let the woman talk.
I do feel honored,
We're
by the
having
way.
fun
No,
tonight.
no
Let's
offense
go.
to that,
Shake
but
and
I do
bake.
feel
It's
honored.
Ricky Bobby hour.
Oh my goodness, Ricky Bobby.
That's my
Very
YouTube name. Yep.
So I just
I
want
have
to
many
end.
nicknames.
Yes, you do. My favorite is Keebs.
Yep, that's mine too, actually.
I just wanted to hop off here because I think I'm out of things to talk about, and I'm like slightly nervous now that you said everyone around the world is listening.
Well, wait, there's not that many. There's only what
Oh, not that many.
32 on right now. We had 50 at one point, but like our show will get like 700 views by tomorrow, maybe if, it might somewhere between 700 and 1,000 by Monday.
I want to
It's
Oh
ask,
my goodness, what's up?
are there real spies or people at Bethel? Is this confirmed that all they do or what they do, they're assigned to make
I
sure
would
that they have
I
their
would
finger
have
on the
to
pulse
say
of the.
when I'm on Quora,
uh,
there are automatic responses, paragraphs long, and it's just like they'll always have jw.org stuff on it and plug jw.org, and they do massive amounts of damage control. And I even called them and asked them out, do you work for Watchtower? And they're like, no, Watchtower doesn't pay anybody. I'm like, tell me about it. But like, what I meant was, and what I was telling him was, all of them is like, are you do you get your time in the ministry? Are you pioneers? Like, what's the deal? Why are you doing this? Because none of it's genuine. It's all pre copy and paste shit. It's not out of the heart. None of these people even know what they believe anymore
You
because the
know,
doctrine's been changed like so much. But
what I
go
think it
ahead.
is pride. Men like to pride themselves, right?
Control, pride,
Control,
ego,
yes,
sure.
pride.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways,
but I would definitely say yes, there are, because in my opinion, in the 7 years when I finally stumbled upon this environment and six screens and all that, I didn't know any of this stuff existed. And from the time that I started listening to things that we were all talking about, there's too many coincidences where we talked about something and then all of a sudden Watchtower has made a policy or they've commented on it or something. There's too many times. There's no way that they would know that they would know that this is out there in the ether if they didn't have people out here listening. And then I know that even when I was a kid, I remember Watchtower, maybe a book would come out, a movie would come out, a TV show would come out, and Watchtower would say, oh, you shouldn't watch this movie and this TV show. It features this and it features that. And I would say, how do they know what this features? If you're saying that you shouldn't watch this movie because it's got gratuitous violence or gratuitous sex, how did you know? Well, obviously somebody there had to watch it, or they had to watch enough of it to be able to say, yeah, Basic Instinct isn't a movie a Christian should watch, or Scooby Doo, or whatever the case is. So even back then, I used to wonder, but there's too many coincidences here lately where things that we are talking about that they all of a sudden do. And I'll give you the first one that jumps out at me. We talked quite a bit about Charles Taze Russell's headstone and then that 6 foot tall
Heck
pyramid.
yeah.
And we
Yeah.
talked about that. We talked about that. And then all of a sudden, I
Yeah.
got an alert. And one evening, there was even video from or pictures. And now all of a
Mark
sudden,
Martin.
the thing is,
Mark Martin went down to the site.
Yep.
He's at XJW. He just put out a video just now. I saw it in my notifications, but no, he was on it. He went down to, was it Pennsylvania or wherever it was,
Mhm.
or New York, and he went down there and saw the proof. He talked to the groundskeeper, and yeah, they removed the headstone.
And they
I
removed the
never
head.
believed that he was Illuminati until they did that, because I'm like, well, if they weren't guilty, they wouldn't have removed it. So he definitely was Illuminati.
Right. And there's just too many
Or
things like
Freemason, sorry,
that
whichever.
there's too many things that are like that we talk about that are in our community that all of a sudden Watchtower goes and addresses in some way. How would they know that? They've got to be listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
If only to find out if there's people in their organization who are revealing things, which we know that they are.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm just letting the audience know that we're about 10 minutes out until I'll close down, because Rick usually
I
wants
don't.
me to end around
Is
1
anybody
o'clock.
have a? Does anybody have a
So I'm telling
finger?
you this.
Does anybody have
Go ahead, Keith.
a finger on maybe how many PMOs are in there? Because I know personally quite a few of them, but
Yeah, I think
I'm
that'd
pretty
be a
sure.
hard number to
But I
figure
mean,
out, because there's so many.
there has to be, because
How many
there's
people are PMOs that aren't on social media and don't say anything about it?
right.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah. I
How
mean
about
that
we got
one brother.
CIA man. I don't know if anyone knows who I'm talking about, but CIA man is a complete PMO and nobody knows who he is. And when if he contributes to this show at all, he doesn't call in, but he'll give information to Rick of what's going on in the Kingdom Halls. But he lives the double life, not in a bad way, but
Right.
just that he can't tell his family how he feels. And
Right.
he has to hide his friendships.
And you can imagine, like in the brother that was on Barb Anderson's show, who
Yeah.
was at Bethel, when he
Yeah,
talked
today.
about being friends with an older gentleman there who was definitely PMO. Well, that brother's PMO, but at his age and all of that, he's not on social media. We would never know about him. So
Right. Yeah.
that's a
Yeah, good point.
great question, my friend. I don't know. I would even
It's
add to your
Yeah.
question. I would love to know how many active Jehovah's Witnesses there are. Period. Because every year
Yeah.
it's 8 million. There's no way that they
There's no
have
way.
8 million people.
No, they're
Somebody,
saying 9 now. They're saying 9 now.
they're saying not. Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
well,
They
they
said they
lie.
just this past report, they said they got to 9 because they let a bunch of disfellowship people in.
Right. That's a
But
question I would love to know. How do you
they've
have
lowered the
more
stand. See,
people?
what they've done is lowered the standards to get more people in. All of a sudden, it's like, well, we don't care about fornicators anymore or other people. Like, we just need to bring our numbers up for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And we
these
don't care.
people, I guarantee you, a lot of them, they're not going to do anything for the organization. They just wanted their family back.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
They've
Yeah. I
already
would
been
love to know
living
the
these
answer to that.
worldly lives, if you want to call it, for so long. Why would they change their lifestyle all of a sudden?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it just interests me that there has to be quite a bit of dissent now, much more than there was, especially with the internet and especially with access to the information. All the changes that have been being made. I think quite a few people are like, this is and there's just, it seems that there's a lot more ability for people to, I don't know. I just, leaving is very hard. I don't care who you are. It's really hard to leave because it's your community, it's your family. But I would say that there has to be enough people in there now that the governing body is quite aware that they have to cater to them and pander to them, even if they're doing it in a way that's subtle and whatever. But they are definitely trying to spice it up and be like, oh, you can have a beard, you can check this box, and all this stuff so that
Except
they
my
can.
beard's still banned, Keith.
What?
My beard is still banned.
Oh, sure. I mean,
They won't
they got
accept
to
mine.
control some. That's
Yeah,
so stupid.
isn't it? What do? They get the measuring tape out. Right.
Mm.
We'll cut that right here.
Yeah. The thing that
Stupid.
I find shocking, because I've listened to, I can't tolerate Jehovah Witness meetings, talks for very long. 10,
Oh,
15 minutes is
Oh,
about all I
dude,
can do.
I have to watch them to keep
I,
like
I
up with
just, I,
material. And it's
cannot.
there's a guy that gave a new talk. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'll finish real quick and you can go back. But he is
Yeah,
so damn boring. I couldn't watch it. I'm just like, oh my god. He had the monotone. He was a governing body helper to the governing body writing committee, and it was just like, oh, that like he is this black brother, and he just was so damn boring.
right. Yeah,
I kept like coming back to it, and I'd get 2-3 minutes in, and I'm like, I can't. So I finally
yeah,
said maybe Wally will cover him, and I'll if he
yeah,
finds anything.
yeah. I can
So
only listen to stuff like that when it's in
yeah, it's
snippets of
tough,
somebody
dude.
else. But the point that I'm making is they
Puts you
don't
to sleep.
teach anything of any kind of substance. When I was a kid, and I don't know if it was because I was a kid and my brain was just forming, so all this stuff was new to me, or was it more substantive? I don't know if which one or combination maybe. But what I can definitely say now is they teach nothing substantive. They have turned into the organization that just tickles your ears. They don't teach anything really biblical because they can't, because everything that they taught has been wrong. And there's so many things that are plainly in the scriptures that they either don't follow or they follow to a certain extent. Other things they don't follow at all, and then the rest of it they just make up. So they in my opinion, they're trying to stay away from that. So they really focused on, well, this is how you be a Christian in the modern age, and not so much about Christianity and then the Old Testament on top of it. Because what can they really teach? So much of this stuff is so awful. When you look at the Old Testament and you see how awful that book really is, what are you going to teach about that? You know, in the
Mhm.
climate that we live in, with all the woke culture and the LGBT, whatever all the cute letters are, and all this kind of stuff, and you're going to go in the scriptures and you're going to talk about all the violence and all the slavery and the misogyny and all this, all of that. There's really, what are you going to teach from from that? So you got to stay away from that. You can't really teach Christianity because you're not a true Christian organization. So all you're left with is, this is how you can be a Christian in the modern age, and that's what they're doing now. They're tickling people's fancies, and then now all of a sudden you've got all these emotional, heart tugging videos about how you can see your pet dog and your grandfather in the new system, depending on which one you love the most. In the new system and all of that. That's all it is. It's nonsense. It's nonsensical. They do most of their teaching from videos, and it's just going to increase, and it's nonsensical.
I've also caught Jehovah's Witnesses on Quora saying that they help people get to paradise, and I'm like, I scolded them for it, and I told them that that was pagan, and that it's like only Christ can bring you to the Father, not Jehovah's Witnesses. It's like the
Mhm.
most ignorant. They're the most ignorant people on this earth.
And they don't even teach they don't even teach a prosperity gospel. Most of
Yeah.
these churches and at least preach a prosperity gospel. Work hard, the Lord will bless you with some wealth, just give church a little piece. Watchtower doesn't even teach that. They still want you to be dumb and uneducated, like that video that you brought up, Eric. We don't even understand what was the point of that video. Are you saying kids shouldn't go to school, drop out of school, and just go be? What are you even? What are you even
Yeah.
saying?
What are you even
The
getting at?
message, the
Because it's
message
such a
is never
basic
even
thing.
clear.
Like,
They can't even make a clear message.
did
You're
they
All right, one
discourage
thing to
kids
say about
from?
that is kids are so
Yeah. Go ahead, Em.
morphable. Kids are so naive, and kids are
Yeah.
so morphable that they take the gentle brain that can be beautiful and extravagant, and they just narrow it. They
Yeah,
want it to
I
be
mean,
this
Yeah.
big.
You know what? To expound on what you're saying about that, and they have a video, Emily, of like it's a cartoon, and a child, instead of like buying ice cream, they donate their money to Watchtower. So like you're talking about impressionable minds, and it's like that's what they're doing. They're saying to like give up their ice cream money
Well, and I wanted to
to
chime
give
in
it
on
to
that
them.
too. That's why I'm so naive. It's not just you guys. It's us too. They keep us in the dark. They don't teach us about sex, drugs, alcohol, rock and
no,
roll. They
not at
just
all.
teach
Yeah.
that it's bad, bad, bad. So it makes you want to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I I don't know about you guys, but there's a whole subject that I would love to hear about sometimes, which is this loaded language thing, which is like you hear the word Jehovah, boom, it's they connect the word Jehovah, the sound Jehovah, to the organization. It's like you there's no difference. Jehovah will be really happy if you do this or that. He'll be really angry if you don't. And it's interesting to see how words are manipulatable. They're so manipulative with
We
words,
don't
and
go
I've
to
always
church, we go to Kingdom Hall because churches are
right. So
pagan.
we're special.
Yeah, that's loaded. That's a good topic, actually.
Yep.
It's
What
just
else? What else?
there's certain
They use
words
a
that I'm
lot of.
just like,
Yeah.
what's that? Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry, we
No,
talked
I
over
just
each other.
it's just that there are certain words that when I use, I'm like learning. I feel like sometimes I say words that are like kind of because there's this whole idea Jehovah's Witnesses had the pure language, and there's
Nonsense.
I think Telltale called it dog whistles. When you speak cult speak, then you're
Mhm.
in the crowd, and that would, you know, when you know their language, it's like, oh, you're part of our group. And I guess that goes for Mormons and everything, but that's a very important part of belonging is just like learning the right words. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
do you know what
The
anointed is?
right manipulation.
Yeah, it's like a
Wisdom, yeah.
It
password.
is almost like a manipulation though, because to talk about like praying, do you guys know about praying and like I'm sure everybody does. You guys done your history reports. I have not. So my grandma asked me the other day if I pray still, and I looked her in the eyes and I said no. She asked me if I was religious still. I looked her in the eyes and I said no. She asked me why I had green hair. I looked her in the eyes and I said I can have fun. She goes, you need to pray more often. I said, why? What has God done for me? She didn't like that. She didn't like the fact that I had so much to combat with, saying, well, he's done this to me. How did I deserve that? I was a good Christian. I was a good kid. I did everything right. I just did one thing wrong. And that was having sex out of wedlock because I wasn't taught about it. That's all.
Well, Watchtower does the same thing. They
That's what I'm
do
hearing.
not
Yeah.
they do not teach anything about sex. They only teach abstinence. And so what happens is a certain segment of young people, because again, I was in it since the age of 3. So when we got to be teenagers, some of the girls, if they became sexually active, immediately would become pregnant because they didn't know anything about safe sex, how to use a condom or birth control, or any of that, because that's not
Right.
taught. So what
It's
happens
time.
is
Sorry, I got
you
kicked
get
off.
you get in the moment of whatever, and the deed is done, and nobody thinks twice because you weren't taught anything about it. So they're just as guilty as anybody else to contributing to that. And then if a young lady does become pregnant, she might as well have that scarlet letter on her head. Everybody looks down on her, and it's almost like her value goes down in the minds of the men in the Jehovah's Witness organization. She could be a beautiful woman, but if she's gone out and she's had sex with somebody else and got pregnant on top of it, she just went down. She was a 10, now she's a 5, just because of that. And she may not even get married to somebody for that reason, or that person can just be she might be a very beautiful woman. The person she ends up with might be just kind of average, just because everybody else is looking down on her, and her value is down here simply because she got pregnant in an organization that doesn't teach you anything about safe sex. They only teach abstinence. But
Yeah.
again, if the male does that, no big deal. That was a couple years
Right.
ago. He's got a little bit of experience. That's a good thing.
So riddle me this one, guys. Coming from the Christianity side of it, why was I told to marry a doctor or a lawyer my entire life? Or
It's a
somebody
cult.
in the church. Like those were my 3 options: doctor,
Right.
lawyer, or somebody in the church.
Yeah,
Well,
all Jehovah's Witnesses have is marry in the same faith. That's it.
marry in the
Yeah.
same
If they
faith.
happen
Yeah,
to,
That is
yeah.
okay.
that's it.
Hey,
And then the
hey,
ones that want. Mhm.
I just wanted to make a little quick announcement, just because I saw a message. Our friend Debbie Moore is really going through it with her leg, and let's just all give some shout outs or prayers to her. Keep her in our thoughts and prayers.
Mhm.
She's just I don't want to give too much personal stuff away because I don't know what she wanted me to share or not, but it's just she's a little scared with what she's going through. But she told me why she didn't listen to the show tonight, so I feel bad for her. Love you, Debbie.
Well, she
Sorry
needs
that you're
someone to
going through
talk to later. I'm open all night.
it. She's a good
I
person.
unfortunately know how those
I don't think she's
limitations
up to it.
go.
You know what, guys? I
It's
don't mean to
time.
cut it in the middle, but it's time. Rick's probably getting tired. He's been on for
Oh,
6 hours or so,
oh
8 hours.
yeah,
I
But
am
yeah.
very
Thank
hey,
you.
sad.
thanks. Thanks for everyone coming on, Keith and
Nice to meet
JP
you,
and Emily
Yep. Nice to
Emily.
and
meet everybody.
Nice
Stefan.
to meet
Thanks,
you
man.
guys too.
Love you
Thanks for
guys,
having.
and
Thanks for
thanks
having us,
everyone in the
Rick.
audience, Becky and Craig and everyone else that's listening to. Love you guys. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye,
Have a
everybody.
great Christmas. All right,
Yep.
Bye
see you.
Yep.
guys. Merry
Yep. Bye.
Christmas.